Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 279. We've got Nate Hale, Sean Wilkinson in the garage. It's hot. It's a hot one.
A little warm today. I think the hottest day next week is also on Wednesday. I think it's supposed to be
great.
95 that day.
I'm really looking forward to that. That's cool. It's cool. Hopefully there'll be more devastating storms in the area as well.
Oh,
yeah. That sucks. Ray, we are here. See you on there. Jonathan, Mike, everyone that's joining in on the live feed now. Make sure you, hopefully, if you guys are enjoying this, the best way you can promote the show is to share, like, comment, review, all that stuff, whether it be through the Facebook, through YouTube, or on any of the podcast apps as well once we post the audio on there. But if you guys can support the show that way, that's the best way to get more and more people to watch it. I know Facebook algorithms and everything don't work like they used to, so hopefully we can get more and more people part of the community, which is where we got the part 2 stuff tonight. So why do we sound so funky? Let me fix it.
Yeah.
Usually we take care of that before, but
should be good there. Sorry if you guys couldn't hear us. Hopefully you did at least hear us, even though we sounded funky according to Ray. But yeah, anyways, share, like, review, comment, all that stuff, and just continue hopefully to enjoy the show. Share it to your friends or on any groups or on your Facebook and stuff like that. So thank you very much. Also, thank you to the guys on all you guys on patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. It's really helped out. Venmo at Bourbon and BS. It's helped out. We had to get a new laptop. I got a new mic. We've got some other things. We're looking at upgrading the streaming abilities. We're going to look into that, but that does, again, it brings more cost. So all that stuff, you guys that are enjoying the show, doing the Venmo or obviously the Patreon monthly, that really does help us out. So we appreciate that very, very much. Keep doing this every week for you guys, and we get a lot out of it as well. So also want to thank Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Tonight we are going to be smoking something brand new from Forged Cigars from Gloria Cubana. This is the Serie S Maduro. So this is a new cigar that we're going to be featuring tonight. Thank you to Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. They do have this cigar in 2 sizes, the Robusto Gordo or something. It's a 5.5 by 54, 56. Mm-hmm. This is, I think, what we're smoking, right? Do you have that label? And we also have it in the Gordo as well. So I couldn't remember. It's Robusto Grande? Gordo.
Robusto Gordo.
Robusto Gordo, 5.5 by 56. Is it 56? But 2 sizes of that, some other stuff as well. No, I mean if you can read it, that's yeah. So yeah, check them out as well. And then also Altadis USA, we do have an H. Upman Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez. That is going to be for the part 2. And we appreciate the continued support with them. I talked to Josh Bentley on the phone today for the first time in a long time. So we're hoping to get him back on. He was one of the original supporters from Altadis, and we appreciate the continued support from everyone there, including Josh and Maria and just everyone. So we appreciate that. And also BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver are available. The gold is made by Plasencia. The silver is made by Espinosa, and that is available in 3 sizes each, different sizes, but they are available for you guys to purchase at Tinder Box at Easton, or they can be shipped to you as well. And we'd appreciate that support and the support from BS Cigar Company. And if you like the shirts, let's see, not on Sean. I don't know where you got that one.
It's a comedian.
Cool.
Sorry.
It's all right. I've got the podcast shirt on in the blue and black. It's Pour One More, Light Up Another. We'll figure this out together. And then also we have the When the World Hands You Some BS, Light It Up.
Felt like it was an appropriate shirt for today.
Okay. Based on your work yesterday?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That boy.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Again, we're smoking the Gloria Cubana Serie S Maduro, and we're going to be drinking something. Nate, what are we drinking tonight?
So this is the Bardstown Origin Series bourbon.
Okay.
So there are 3 bottles in the Origin Series. There is this high rye bourbon. There is a bottled and bond bourbon that is a different mash bill. And then the one that I have hidden over here is the rye.
Of the Origin series.
Of the Origin series. Those are the 3 bottles in the Origin series. The reason they call it the Origin series is even though people hear the name Bardstown, they think they've been around for a little while. It's not been that long. This is their first estate distilled product. So this is all them. Prior to this, everything that they were doing, they were sourcing, or they were blending with other stuff. So this is their juice bourbon, their juice ryes.
Okay.
So,
and where are they located?
In Bardstown,
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
There we go. So it's not just a clever name. Just
if you've never been there or driven by it, so like I said, it's a newer operation, and you can tell when you drive by, like everything looks extremely modern, high tech
at this distillery.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it is brand spanking new. It's not the old stuff.
Have you been by there?
I've driven by it,
but haven't been in.
I haven't been inside.
Okay.
I drove by it when we were on our way back from Tennessee.
Okay. Nice. Excuse me while I wipe off the pouring down sweat here. Really need to get some air conditioning in here. Kind of nice. And heat. That's not propane for the winter. Those are always interesting nights.
Yeah.
I don't feel right. Breathing in propane for the last 3 hours.
Yeah.
And drinking.
Yes.
So what do we think of this?
All of these are 6-year age stated.
Okay.
So on this one, it actually tells you that it was distilled in the fall of 2016. It just released January of this year.
Yeah.
And it just recently came into Ohio because at Carfagna's, we've had people calling in or coming into the store like, hey, you guys got the Origin Series yet? And we had the rye about a month ago. That's why I already have that bottle and done a little damage to it. But we literally
learning the product, man.
Yes.
Learning the product.
We literally got the bourbon in on Friday.
Yeah.
I think we had 2 or 3 cases, and on Saturday when it got down to 1 bottle left, I was like, that's going home with me.
Nice.
What's the retail?
So on the bourbon that we're drinking tonight, that is, you want to take a guess?
63.
It is $45.99. The rye is $69.99. It's a 6-year rye. The rye is 95.5, and then the bourbon that we're drinking, I said it was a high rye, so it's 60% corn.
It's on the bottle, or you're looking at the bottle there. Oh, nice.
It is 60. Yeah, they don't. If you've ever had like their fusion series and any of that stuff where they're blending, so they are very transparent about what's in the bottle. Like, all right, we've got this percentage of this year with this mash bill in the bottle, and then this percentage this year. So they put everything on there. So it's 60% corn, 4% malted barley, 36% rye.
Wow, that is a high rye.
That is a high rye.
What's that on the back? Is that a corn stalk?
Yes. So when you start to enjoy the bottles, you'll see like a little almost like a painting in grayscale on the back.
That's cool.
And you can look through and see it from the front, through the caramel color of the bottle.
Nice.
So on the rye, those are rye stalks, and on the bourbon, those are corn stalks.
Can I take a look at the bottle here?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I do like their marketing. It's very clean.
Yes.
On all their stuff. Yeah. And they are about, it even says, new blend of bourbon makers. Bardstown Bourbon Company is the most sophisticated distillery in the country, honoring tradition while pushing the boundaries through innovation, all with a focus on transparency, which is what you were talking about there. Putting the science and crafts front and center for all to see. That's neat. It's really neat.
That looks like a high-end bottle when you look at it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So again, for the $50 price point, you're at the 96 proof, and you've got a lot of information, 6 years. That's solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would guess by presentation alone, and some of the prices on some of their other ones, right? Some of the source stuff was a little higher than that.
Oh yeah,
like a lot higher than that. So
yeah. Well, and then they had one that was finished in Armagnac barrels. Yeah. They did one that was a collaboration with Foursquare Rum.
Okay.
Where that one was finished, air quote, finished in a Foursquare Rum barrel for 23 months.
For a long time.
Yeah, which is, one more month and it's a second barreling. But yeah, those two bottles were like 150, 160.
Wow.
Mhm.
So they definitely do some pricey bottles.
And that's why it's cool to see their initial releases with their own stuff coming in at what I think agree on the show average price is around $50 for a new release.
Yeah, this is, like I said, this is $45.99 in the state of Ohio.
Yeah. Sean, what do you think, man?
I love it. It's definitely a unique flavor. Again, I'm used to the whole. Seems like a lot of bourbons and whiskeys have a very common denominator taste when you like on the front end and the back end. And this one kind of threw me for a loop. It's very unique. It has some of those traits, but it's very, I don't know, it's dry to me. It's like a drier finish. You don't feel it going down, but it's not burning either, which I'm really happy because since it's 90-some degrees today.
Yeah.
I was hoping you get a lighter bottle, but yeah, I
suggested he suggested the barrel proof.
Yeah, I did originally. I was like, I got an Elijah Craig barrel proof.
Yeah.
I was driving in and I'm like, if Nate brings a fucking 140 proof bottle of bourbon to 90 degree,
It's like I that's what I said.
He goes, it's 90
degrees, and I'm like, let me like kind of frame this. I said, I'm bringing.
He goes, it's 90 degrees, and we're smoking a Mexican San Andreas cigar.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
all right.
medium full at the very least. So let's not kill ourselves.
No,
Right now it's still 84 degrees.
I enjoy, and I'm kind of like, I'm going to start messing with like here in a bit with like, retro hail and then sip and, kind of mix and match here. And then just see how the flavors kind of continue on as you keep drinking, as you get used to it. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I really enjoy it. I got some fruit on the nose and
yeah.
Can't figure out what you mentioned. Peach.
I said like peach,
Yeah.
apricot kind of.
Yeah. And
there's some fruity and sweetness on the nose.
Yeah. And then that drier finish, it's really unique. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Jonathan Aaron down in Texas. Wow, 84 degrees, poor guys. Yeah, well, we also had hail 2 days ago. 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Big one.
Yeah, on this side of town.
Yeah. Sean's and my cars look like golf balls, basically.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah, I got a cracked windshield
Super.
now and fun.
I feel like, the biggest thing with my car is that, like, can you find a panel
That's not
that doesn't have
a dent.
I'm not bitter about this at all.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like, well, the running rocker panel on the underneath the doors there. Clean as a whistle.
Yeah.
Underbelly's good to go, man.
Rims look good.
Your exhaust pipes, though, I got a couple. How? I just got the car fucking detailed like a month
I know.
ago.
Yeah.
And
But
washed it on Monday afternoon, mind
Didn't
you.
didn't break any of the glass or lights. So there is
I
I
that.
feel like a
Say
wheel's
that.
about to fall off now you're saying that.
I know John
Just goes down on like 3 tires. Like,
was
perfect.
it Nate Hale? Now, if you can picture like an Austin Powers doing that, or like a
Jonathan Aaron doing that?
or
Well,
him,
like that-
or him being like Dr. Evil, is it a Nate?
But
Hale?
sometimes for some online stuff,
That's really bad.
that's
dude.
how I will. That's how I will spell my last name is Hail, just for a pun.
Nice.
Bring it down the hill.
Like an Angry Birds.
Nate, what do you think of this?
The whiskey or the
Yeah.
cigar? I like it. I was not expecting that much fruitiness. I was expecting a lot more spice.
Yeah.
Than I get because of that 36% rye. I was expecting this to have quite a bit more spice to it than it does.
Yeah.
Absolutely love the nose. Like the nose on this before we went live was like, ooh, I like that. That's going to taste good. But yeah, and that fruitiness on the nose does carry over onto the palate. Just a little bit of spice on the back end of it that kind of hangs around for a little bit, but it's not overly aggressive. It's not real spicy. No, that's a good bottle, and I can understand why there were people coming into the store every week.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you guys got this bottle? Like, nope, not yet. Nope,
Yeah.
not yet. Don't know when we're going to.
I think there's some excitement, obviously, behind what they've done so far, right? As a distillery, even though it was being sourced. This is like, it's like a sweet heat, You know, I think this, when we all first took a sip before we went live, we were all like, "Oh, that's fruity," like, and like you had said, peach, Nate.
Yeah,
it's almost like, but then it has a little bit of like the spice, or not really cinnamon, but it does have that cinnamon kind of sensation, I think.
Yeah.
So
very subtle though.
It's kind of, but that's why I describe it almost like as a sweeter heat
Mm-hmm.
when you're drinking this, and before lighting up the cigar, I mean, that obviously, not obviously, but I'll say this, it has changed it a little bit, the sipping experience. We'll get to that, as we talk about the cigar, and obviously at the end of part one, where we'll talk about how they pair and rate those. That's why we do this on the show. If you haven't listened to it before, kind of talk about the whiskey or the cigar, then the other, and then we'll talk about, obviously at the end, we do ratings. So you stay tuned for that. But I'm enjoying the bottle. I think
too.
The price is fair. The marketing is good. The story behind it, the fact that it's 6 years. I mean, the fact that they're being transparent, and they even have, I don't know if that's handwritten, but you've got like a handwritten touch on the distilled line there. Yeah. And I assume, does that say the same thing on the rye there? It says spring, I can see.
Spring of 2017.
Okay. But it's got a really nice kind of like a floral, like a fruity floral kind of, I was going to say bouquet, but I don't like the way it sounds, but you know what I mean.
Have you retrohaled and then took a sip?
Probably. I'll do it now though.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It just gives a different flavor to it.
So retrohale and then take a sip.
Yeah. So smoking cigar, retrohale.
Cannonball coming.
Almost takes out the spice completely.
Yeah, it does. It mutes.
It's not as dry.
It mutes the whiskey.
It mutes the dryness, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely different there.
Yep.
I don't know. I do like the bottle. I'm on the fence so far about the pairing. You know what I mean? I'm not sure how that's gonna continue to go here, but the Gloria Cubana, we talked a little bit about this. Was last week Ryan Ponist? Yeah. So Ryan Ponist was here now with Forge Cigars. Go back and check that one out. Always great having him in the garage. He, as he always says, he loves podcasts and loves bourbon. The exact opposite is true.
Yes.
But in part two, we did feature the La Gloria Cubana 8th Street, where I gave a little bit of information. We talked a little bit about the El Credito factory, Ernesto Perez Carrillo, his father, all that stuff. And this is being made in Dominican Republic at their factory, where they do have the El Credito. It's not really like a wing. I've never seen it, but I mean, they've got a part of the factory that they credit as the El Credito factory. So that is kind of the namesake of the history of where Ernesto Perez Carrillo, I believe senior. So it's
Ernie. Was that
Ernie's dad?
Okay.
Started the El Credito factory, and then Ernesto, who everyone knows as Ernesto Perez Carrillo or EPC Cigars, he was the one that took it over at some point, and he came back into business, took it over, and sold that. Works for General Cigars, STG Group. Now he has his own line. They have the namesake. I'd say the best seller that I know of La Gloria Cubana is the Serie R.
Oh yeah,
that line, Serie R Maduro. They've got some other ones. They did release a Serie S with a Mexican San Andreas wrapper before this. This is a brand new release. I believe at the PCA, the trade show, Premium Cigar Association trade show, is where they launched this. And it just arrived, I think, on shelves this week or last week, depending on when you ordered it. And this has a San Andreas Maduro wrapper. This is a very dark wrapper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the intention of this, to do that with that Mexican San Andreas with the Maduro Nicaraguan binder, and then Dominican Nicaraguan filler is basically all I know about this cigar.
Yep, that's all Jonathan Herring knows about it.
And you mentioned
that's right, Jonathan Herring. Forgot you were there.
And you did mention it.
I'm not getting the comments like you guys are. Sorry.
Sometimes you have to scroll or swipe one side and then swipe back.
Oh shit! Yeah, look at that.
No.
Well, Ray has been busy.
Not seeing it, but whatever. See other people, Mike and Aaron, Ray.
So you did say that's considered a medium full cigar?
Medium to full for sure.
For it being medium full, it's one of the first ones I've had in a while where it's not like Usually you associate that with like, oh my God, it's super powerful and it's just real spicy, and it's not. It's at least for me, there's not like a pepper bomb or anything to it on the retrohale. I think it's got a nice smooth flavor, which pleasantly surprises me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call it smooth, because that San Andreas wrapper tends to have a little roughness around the edges to it.
Flavor wise?
Just the texture of the smoke, the way it hits the palate. It comes across sometimes a little rough, a little harsh on the palate sometimes. And that's how a lot of times I'll be able to pick out a San Andreas if I don't know it's a San Andreas ahead of time, is the way it hits the palate.
I've said it before, though. I think when San Andreas wrappers were really starting to be utilized in the mainstream and being advertised, I think that there was a typical profile that you were getting.
Yeah.
It has since changed, in my opinion, that there's a lot more balanced cigars now, the way that they're blending with the wrapper leaf. This, I would say, smokes closer to the traditional, like what you're talking about, Nate. I think it's balanced. I think it's a balanced cigar. I don't know about smooth, Sean. That's how I would describe it. But I mean, I don't know.
Maybe
if we're
good.
saying
Maybe it's
the
a
same
better.
thing,
Maybe it's a better. Man, I think it's weird. I think it's
I mean, smooth. I mean, it's not like a real light. I mean, it is medium full. I think you've got those traditional, like, kind of black coffee. There's a little pepper, especially in the retrohale.
Oh yeah,
definitely in the retrohale.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a little spice, but mostly like a black pepper type of a spice. You're not getting. I don't think it's a very spicy cigar.
No, it's not.
That's where the balance part comes in. You think it's gonna like kick up a notch.
Yeah, I think I was prepared for it.
Is that what you're
like,
thinking?
oh, and I'm like, well, it's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mine's right around the band. It's starting to soften up a little bit, but
okay.
Like, it was super tight. And like, I gotta really sit there and puff on it.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
And like,
I've got an easy draw.
I even hit mine with a draw poker, and like, it's still a little
soft,
little on the tight side.
The only thing I'll say is that it did land yesterday. So these and that does happen for you guys that are buying these, especially from a brick and mortar. When you know, it's not like buying a bottle the first day it arrives off of a truck, right?
Yeah.
You know, this is
Right.
This is something that, especially this time of the year, the winter, you've got some extreme heat, extreme cold, and these are going to be the way they ship cigars. For those who don't know, some boxes do have like a Boveda in there or some sort of humidification. Most of the boxes are coming cardboard boxes, and you've got bubble wrap around the boxes, and that's it. So you figure they leave, especially the factories in Miami typically, or in that Florida area, because they've come into the country. Now they're being shipped to the retailers, whether it be online retailers or brick and mortars. These boxes are coming in, and they're on, they're in the UPS facilities, they're on the trucks, they're out for the day. We'll get a delivery a lot of times, at least at our store, and I think it all depends. Sometimes it's earlier, but it can be as late as like 4 in the afternoon, 5 in the afternoon. So you figure a day like today, where you're 90 degrees, that the back of that truck is a lot hotter than that.
Oh yeah,
You're pushing probably 110 or something in the back of that truck. Then it comes into our building, and it's air conditioned. You go back to the humidor, it's acclimating. Not going to say these won't smoke the same in 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, but I defend a little bit where you're saying you guys are a little bit tight and all that stuff. It's got to settle a little bit. I'm fortunate on my mind. The construction is, I give it like a 7.5 or 8, because it's not like the tightest ash. It's not, the tightest, this is coming in.
Not one you want to do an ash contest.
This
with.
is a lower than like the Serie R. This is coming in at $8 to $9 basically. So this is a sub $10 cigar, which is interesting because like the Serie R has definitely climbed in price over the years.
Yeah, the number 7's like what, 15, 16 bucks.
I don't know the MSRP, but with tax, it's tobacco tax in Ohio. Yeah, you're coming in about 15.
Yeah,
15 plus. So
I like Jonathan's as a good description of it. It has a lot of natural sweetness to me, fuller but not super spicy. A lot of dark cocoa or cacao.
There we go. Now I'm getting some of them. Sorry, I wasn't getting the comments on my screen, so now they're just flying in here. Yeah, so that's good. I think he's right on point with us, obviously. Mm-hmm. Jonathan, are you smoking one of these tonight? That's my question.
Ray, the box will have shrink wrap on it, but still, it's still going to get, hot.
So yeah, and the cellophane it's one of those things. It's funny that people want like they want it to be celloed or whatever. That it's breathable cellophane. So I mean, it helps protect the box. So people that are buying the box, hopefully the boxes aren't getting dinged up, for the artwork on the box or the presentation of the box. I mean, that's I think the main reason for that is to hopefully keep a little bit, but that's breathable cellophane. So I mean, I have open boxes that they don't breathe well, and they can be in a humidor, like a walk-in humidor at a store, and they do have like a Boveda in there, and that Boveda is rock hard.
Oh gosh, yes.
Now, I mean, it did its job to a point, but you don't know if that happened in the warehouse because it sat for a while, but you don't know when that happens. But there are some design flaws sometimes if you make those boxes super airtight, because it won't allow much humidity in there because they are using like cedar boxes or whatever it might be. It's a lot of times. These do come cellophane. It's a slide top box. Looks a lot like the Serie R boxes after the rebranding. It does have a little different artwork on the front and obviously different branding with the Serie S. Let's talk about real quick. What do you guys think? We talked about the bottle. What do you think about the cigar itself as far as the branding on it, the look of the bands? Do you like it? Do you not like it? I like it. The Gloria Cubana classic logo on there.
Yeah. But I like the black and the bronze or copper.
Yeah.
Like I
color
think
combo.
Yeah. I think it looks good. Depend on how it's stored on the shelves. Sometimes that secondary band where it says Maduro, depend on how the light hits it, it may be hard to read it on a shelf. Just because of that color. Like we've had some other cigars that the bands utilize like a copper or a brown color, and then you get right up to it and you're like, what the fuck does that even say?
Yeah.
Like
this is legible.
But I think
there's enough contrast there.
Yeah, it's got the regular, woman with the red cape and the yellow background band that we are familiar with from La Gloria. And I think that black and copper stands out, so that way it'll stick out among the rest of their lineup.
Yeah.
Like if a store has a La Gloria section,
this is
like they'll walk by and like, ooh, that catches my eye.
Yeah.
Because that looks a little different.
Well, you, Sean, what do you think?
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's very unique in comparison to the other La Glorias. So it's definitely going to make you go, what is that? And then go look deeper into it and say, all right, what's it say on there? And then you're going to say, maybe ask one of you guys, okay, what's new about this? What's different about this? And it may.
And then you look at it, you obviously can tell that it's Maduro or Oscuro. I mean, it is black.
It is a dark cigar.
It is a very, very dark wrapper. So it almost looks like the Serie R Maduros. But then also you see that price point. You're like, well, all right, that's coming in several bucks less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a Mexican San Andreas. So
they did a Syrian a while back, the Nicaragua. Remember that had the little N and the leaf actually on the cigar wrapper leaf.
And then they have the Esteli.
They have the Esteli. They have the Esteli. Yeah.
They have Spanish press.
So I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think the color combos are great. I think the boxes look good. We don't have a box here right now. I understand it. I don't like the Mexican San Andreas writing on there.
The font or
I don't like
size?
the font. I don't like the way they did it, I guess. I'm being picky here, but I think it looks almost like a very generic font. Doesn't match the rest of the cigar.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
it almost looks like it was
an afterthought.
It's like, well, it's either an afterthought. It's people sitting around and like, all right, this looks too much like a Serie R, even though there's an S there. Different color combo. People can get confused because the boxes look similar.
They won't know what the S stands for.
They don't know what the S is. They might get confused. So let's put it on there that says Mexican San Andreas. That could have been done a little bit better, in my opinion.
Yeah,
they're promoting Mexican San Andreas, but I feel like in this day and age, you don't need to do that as much because most San Andreas wrap cigars they don't say Mexican, they don't say San Andreas. It's just a Maduro, right?
Right.
So I get what they're doing, why they did the Serie S. And they kept with the Serie line a lot. I just think that it could have been done maybe a little bit different where you keep the font as like the bronze. Don't put the white and just put San Andreas underneath it.
What if
Serie S San Andreas?
What if on the secondary band, instead of it saying Maduro, that's where they wrote San Andreas.
Well, you get in a tough spot because they have a Serie S non-Maduro. It's a Mexican San Andreas natural, I guess you call it.
Okay.
So, I mean, from a marketing standpoint, I just think that it was, hey, guys, we need to differentiate this from the Serie R and the Serie R Maduro. Let's use the same kind of marketing on it. Hey, what if we just like type Mexican San Andreas in 2 lines underneath it? You're like, yeah, gold.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see that conversation.
What
I would look at it like,
what is that, Helvetica?
is that,
Yeah, I
so
was gonna say-
we're gonna fix that, right? I mean, like, that's just the prototype is
Do you
where I
think
would look at it.
Do you think it's cheaper? Do they use an easier font?
Just doesn't look right.
That's what I'm saying. I wonder if they try to cut corners and say, well, this font is a lot easier to.
Well, you could have used the Gloria Cubana font. You could have used.
You could have, yeah.
It's fuck. I don't know. I know I'm being picky.
Here we go again, nitpicking the shit.
When I first saw it, that's what I said when Ryan, who was on the show last week. I mean, he like handed these, and I even said right off the rip, I'm like, "Is this a prototype like band?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Because it catches your eye, then you're like, well, okay. It's just there's no mystery to it. It's just like,
and that's fine. I mean, it does. It's very upfront with what it is, but
just like the bottle. It's got
Just
all
like
the
the
information
bottle.
on there.
but that was done more tastefully, I think. As for the cigar, I think it's smoking beautifully. I think it's a great price point. That's just it kind of is it's a turnoff on that, for that. The Mexican San Andreas, the font's wrong. The way they did it is, I don't know.
So
I don't
SCG,
have
if you guys
$1 billion dollar.
SCG, if you guys are looking to hire a marketing person, Steve's available.
Just run it by. Send me an email. You know what I mean? Like, I'll have final approval on all your marketing for a small fee.
A box.
They got more money than that.
You greedy little bastard.
No, I think it was funny because the bands, people probably listen to this and they're like, oh my God, like he's complaining about the little shit and all. Just smoked a new Rocky Patel yesterday, and it was it's called the Rocky Patel Dark Star.
Dark Star.
Correct. Rob Wilson was gave me one. Nick Mitchell was there as well from Rocky Patel, and the first thing, I mean, like, we're like, yeah, check it out. I'm like, I looked at it again. I look at these things, right? Because you want it to be legible if you're going to be putting out a product, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, my God, it had a footband with the RP on it. But then they're like, it said Dark Star bold on the primary band and then a very small RP. And the way that it was embossed and colored, I was like, you can, like, through the cellophane, like, you can barely see that says RP on it. I was like, how is Rocky okay with this? And they're like, yeah, oh, we're already, like, let me show you. He pulls out his phone. This is what's going to be on the production one. Like they totally rebranded it. It's like not even the same colors. It's not even, like, it's like completely rebranded. I'm like, I can't believe Rocky was like looking at this, like, Rocky of all people. Like, you need to know it's a Rocky, right? I mean, so like, God love him, but it was like, I can't even, like, if I looked at it, I was like, Dark Star, who's that made by? Oh, on the footband it says RP. It makes a difference. That's why they do this stuff. Otherwise, they'd all be unbanded and they just, like,
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, to Dave Merrick's point, there are people that will go into a cigar shop and they will pick a cigar sometimes just based on the band.
Yeah.
If they don't know anything about it, like, oh, I've had all this stuff. You know what? This looks interesting. I like this.
Absolutely.
One. I mean, yeah, we all get that.
Jonathan Aaron just texted me. The brand manager is watching. I sent him the link right before y'all did 10 on the font.
Shit.
No, hey man, I'm already saying the cigar is smoking well.
Constructive criticism. That's all, guys.
Hey man,
you know what, Mr. Manager, I'm still gonna buy these, regardless of I don't know his name, of what it looks like. This is a really, really good cigar.
Jonathan Aaron, I'm never designing a cigar band again. You did not do this, and if there is the brand manager watching, unless you just busted my balls, that's what I think. Sorry,
we're honest.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad cigar. I mean, that's part of the.
You don't want a yes guy.
Yeah, this is part of the. Whatever.
You can't buy us off unless you're just literally throwing free shit at us.
Don't see Gloria Cubana being a sponsor anytime soon.
If I see boxes at my house, I'm gonna say it's the best fucking fun you ever chose.
Yeah,
come
on. Right?
It's Times New Roman, for Christ's sake.
There it is.
No, like I said, nitpicking, but
just italicize it.
Italicize it. Put it in bold, man.
Bold italicized.
I'm trying to bring this
bold, italic, and underline.
My iPad's not doing really good things here today. I don't like it. Whatever. I'll find it.
Well, Porn will do that.
I use my iPad. This is the only thing I use my iPad for.
Oh, there you go.
Gotta stop leaving it in the garage when you guys are over.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan says, I love the honesty. Good. Never gonna get cigars again from them.
Yeah. Maybe we should call it the Bourbon and No BS podcast.
He's gonna be like, here's a new cigar for you, Steve. GFY brand.
I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
That was the original idea before BS.
Oh, really?
Yes. The go fuck yourself.
Yeah. I used to say go fuck yourself a lot more back when I first started working at Tinder Box, and we wanted to do this. And this is not trademarked, but if this will be documented if anyone takes it, especially you, Jonathan Herring. But we would say like GFY a lot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, my thought was come out with cigars was the Le Grand Flor de la Yankee.
That's what you wanted.
Yeah, and on the band it would say
Nice.
GFY. Kind of like off the LFD thing, you know what I mean? That's what I was thinking, you know. But we went with BS instead.
Hey, it works.
Yeah. I came up with that. Brian's like, what if we tone it down a little bit? And we just go with BS for Brian and Steve, and then we can still have a little bit of fun with the BS side of it.
Yeah.
It's worked out.
Yeah, because then you also got the spirit and focus on there as well. And it plays well together.
Grand Florida Yankee would have been great, though.
I'm excited about the BS just because I was able to. I played golf with a guy a couple days ago, and he just told Steve, and I just texted me, came in to buy a couple. I think he's going to be excited about it. I really do.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
I'll be impressed. Yeah.
My shop last week got BS's back in stock.
Nice.
So
nice.
Already sold a couple of those. Not even to the same person either. Like,
yeah. It's good.
You sell the boxes, or they just like wrapped in 20 count.
Well, so what we did for the store is just because of the limited space that we have, we bought 10 gold, 10 silver. I actually created barcodes for those, so that way everything gets scanned in, and I can keep track of inventory that way. Because it used to just be we would just ring it up as open cigar and whatever the price was. Well, you don't know what cigars are selling then for that, so. I created barcodes for those. So I printed out, 20 barcodes, put them all on every single cigar. And then the store still has, some of the original BS Toro wooden boxes. Yeah. And so I literally, 5 gold on the bottom, 5 silver on the bottom, and then 5 gold, 5 silver on
split
top.
Box.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. It probably costs more, but it would be nice. Sorry.
And they're right on the top shelf.
Nice. It would be nice to have the band, these separate too. That way you kind of still have something.
What? So 3 bands?
Yeah.
Because one with the Maduro, one with the San Andreas, and then one with the regular La Gloria.
It would cost more.
I do think because we're used to seeing that regular La Gloria band, and then all of a sudden they just added that another half-inch of band underneath that, so it almost looks like there's 2 bands on that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. When
it does. It does.
It's just one big band.
I don't know. I like it.
I do too.
Bobby Hirschman's going to come up with a cigar. It's going to be EAD.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I can't wait to see what kind of picture he'll put on it too. Come on, Bobby, that's your homework. Got to make an EAD cigar and a logo.
Still not getting all the alerts.
Yeah, well, apparently Matt Booth has the GFY.
I believe that.
Yeah. Shocker there.
All right, Jonathan, I won't say it live, but he did send me a text. Good. I'm happy to hear that. That's between us.
Okay.
I'll tell you guys after.
I can't wait.
Oh.
You're naughty.
Aaron Garner, what size is the EAD?
Bobby's probably pretty. No,
that's gonna be like.
I couldn't even. I didn't want to finish it.
It's a 4x44.
Yeah,
dude, I just almost spit all over the fucking mic.
You ever seen
it is
Caliba Pequeños?
Yes. It is not.
And there's Bobby Hirschman. What's he saying? I got nothing on my iPad.
Yeah, it's not going to be like the Asylum April Fools, which I actually saw one today. I actually saw one today in a store that I was at after I went to the post office. That's the first time I've ever seen that cigar.
Yeah,
in person.
I saw him
The 90 by 9.
Really?
Yeah. And then I also saw one of the Medullas. It was the 80 by 6.
Dude, that's insane.
But it's a 6. They have the 80 by 8. Well, now just make that 2 inches shorter. So 80 by 6. I'm like, oh my gosh, that just looks painful.
Doesn't look fun.
It's not. It's not fun.
All right. Like I said, I don't know what Bobby said to that. I got
It's
nothing
bent
there.
left.
Jesus Christ. Jesus.
It's called
It's a fun
that's called
audience
Peyronie's
tonight.
disease. They make a pill for that.
All right.
Yo, left hook.
Jesus. Let's see if I can switch
Bobby
this
left
up.
hook Hirschman. Here we go, baby.
So takes a certain roller to roll that cigar.
Yeah. Right, vertigo.
Not quite.
Use the strong hand.
It's an interesting figure out you got there. Yes, I am sweating. There you go. I got some of these here.
Like Moses Malone.
Moses Malone. I had a good workout before this, and I'm just running hot.
A buddy of mine's his name's Mark Simone. I used to work with him back in the day, and him and I were big with cigars. He kind of got me onto the Nat Shermans. That was his go-to. And
Does he know about Ferio Tego?
I don't know. He's watching, so Mark, if you know about Ferio Tego.
Mark, yeah, check out Ferio Tego. That is the Nat Sherman line, basically.
Yeah.
Michael Herkloss. We got to get him back on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he'd do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know he'd do it. In fact, when he was in this, when I saw him, like whatever it was 4 months ago, he was absolutely down to do it. We're gonna try to get him at the 10 event. 10 events, March 16th, 2024.
What is it?
16th, Saturday.
Day before Patty's Day.
Day before Patty's Day.
Another Saturday. All right.
I even had yesterday morning, Eric Espinosa, just side note here for those that are big fans of the 10 event. He was not able to go this year. We had some scheduling conflicts with some other things, but he called me yesterday morning just to find out what the date was, just so he can get it on his calendar.
That's awesome.
He's like,
Beautiful.
man, March is coming, before we know it. He's so busy and everything.
Yeah.
So he was just trying to make sure that he was going to be able to attend that event. So hopefully that'll work out. Try to get some guys like Herklotz there and already talked to the guys from Rocky to see if we can get Rocky or Nish there again. I mean, we're trying to get everyone there.
Mark Simone, keep this in mind in March. Smoking 10 event. They'll have ads on the flyers at the store, Tinder Box Easton. It's worth it, brother.
I'd rather hit my shin on a trailer hitch than smoke an 80 ring gauge cigar. Yep, I agree.
Fair. Very fair.
Both are very uncomfortable.
Yes.
I have to swipe back and forth.
Yep.
Goddamn Facebook. Got nothing. All right, guys. Oh, there they are. This is the part of it, unless you guys have more to talk about with the individual cigar right now. But this is where we're going to rate it. So before I do that, we'll do real quick. Thank you again to you guys on patreon.com/bourbonandbs podcast. That's going to be where you can do the monthly thing, $5, $10, or $25. Venmo at Bourbon and BS. You want to do a one-time contribution. And I also want to thank our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. They provided the Gloria Cubana Serie S Maduro tonight. Altadis USA, we got an Upman Nicaragua, H. Upman Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez for part 2, and the continued support from them. They got the brands behind us, among others. And then also BS Cigar Company. The gold and silver are available now in 3 different sizes. Gold's Plasencia and silver is Espinosa. And if you guys want some swag, buyjack.com/bourbonandbs. byjack.com/bourbonandbs for any of the shirts, and there's a bunch on there. This time of the year, probably t-shirts are your best bet.
Probably
Come
t-shirts.
the fall, you got 3/4, and then they got hoodies for the fall and winter there as well.
Jonathan, if you want, you can still get one of the ladies deep neck, deep V's.
We do have some stuff
if
for the
you want.
ladies, or again, it's
Or the
2023,
guys.
so whatever you're into.
No judging.
Doesn't ask for your gender when ordering.
Nope.
Unisex used to be what we called that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rating time.
Yes. Let's go.
The best rating is going to be 10, and we do 3 of them: whiskey, the cigar, and the pairing. So, Sean, if you want to go first, the whiskey is going to be the Bardstown Origin Series Bourbon, cigars, La Gloria Cubana, Serie S Maduro, and then how they pair well together, or if they don't, or how you rate it.
So the Bardstown, I'm giving it a 9. I'm already on my second glass. Usually I nurse maybe 1 or 2, and I'm like, this is just going down too quick. But It's delicious. It's going to be up there, one of my favorites now. I just hope it doesn't become allocated.
No, it's not allocated. It's just a hot new thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Bardstown is a hot name in the industry.
Okay.
This is their first all their juice bourbon.
Okay.
So that's why, people have been going nuts searching for this thing.
Yeah. So 9 there. Cigar, I'll give it 8.5. I pleasantly pleased with the taste, the flavor, and it being a full, medium full cigar. It's just nice to have one where you has good balance. And I think together I'll give it 8.5 as well, paired, because trying it with the retro and mix and match, I think they kind of enhance each other. It has a different kind of a flavor profile. It's not like real extreme, but it's just a little bit. I think the flavor for me lasts a little bit longer after a retro. It's not as dry. It takes the dryness out, so I do enjoy that. So 8.5 for the pair as well.
Nice.
So I'm going to be a 9 on the whiskey as well. Love the flavor of this. Like, I'd been smoking the cigar for a little while and then just went back to the whiskey, and I absolutely love it. And I think the price point is great at $45.99 in the state of Ohio. Because, like I said, the rye, I picked it up about a month or so ago, and that's $69.99. So I was thinking that the bourbon was going to come in around that same price point. So when we got it on the shelf and we printed off the tag for it, I'm like, really?
Yeah, that's surprising, right?
46 bucks for their first bourbon. That's all them, and it's a 6-year. Because a lot of times with some stuff, you're almost looking about $8 to $10 a year that it's in the barrel. So, this coming in, that $45 price point, like I think it's a real good bottle for that money. I love the designs on the back of the bottle where they have like the corn stalk, the rye stalk.
It's a nice touch. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I had taken a picture with a cigar I was smoking when the rye bottle was full. And, the way my patio faces, I had the sun on the backside of the bottle. So like I'm taking the picture looking through the bottle, and you can still see those grain stalks on the back, and it just looks really nice. It's a very solid bottle.
Do you think we could have try a sip of that after?
That's why I brought it.
Okay, I forgot to pour that then. Yeah,
yeah. You guys were very eager to go to second glass on the bourbon, which is fine. We can do the rye in part 2, but
it's pretty good.
That's why I brought both, so that way we can try both.
Nice.
Thank you very much for that.
Sharing is caring. I've got a lot of bottles to work through.
I saw your post about that. Yeah.
So, the day I made that post was National Tequila Day, so I finished off a bottle of tequila that night.
Boy. Boy.
The cigar, just based on the the flavor and stuff on the cigar, I'd give an 8. Mine being a little bit on the tight side, knock it down to a 7.5. So I'll definitely give it at least another go to see if I get one that smokes as well as Steve's did. Because if it smokes as well as Steve said his has been smoking, then it's definitely an 8. It's got a good flavor. It's not too bold, not something that's going to punch you in the face, unless all you smoke is mild cigars. Like
I don't get you.
So
I got an easy draw.
Yeah, mine's been a little bit tight.
Yeah.
As you roll it around in your hand without cracking the tobacco, it does loosen up a little bit. As far as the pairing, I think the cigar overpowers this whiskey a little bit, especially since this bottle doesn't really have those like really heavy caramel and dark fruit notes and stuff like that. It's more, your stone fruits, a little bit lighter on the sweetness because there's so much rye in it. This cigar's got so much spice and pepper to it, especially on the retro. I think it kind of takes away from the whiskey. So 7 on the pairing for me.
Yeah, I can see that a bit there. So for me, the Bardstown Origin Series, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Origin Series bourbon. On its own, I mean, for to all the points you guys made, I'll give it a 8.75.
Okay.
That's a really aggressive price point, to your point, Nate, as far as, with them coming out with their own juice now after sourcing all that stuff and aging it for 6 years. They've been sitting on this project, if you will, basically since they came into the game, right? So that is very, very cool to see that they didn't get aggressive with that and think that they had to come out with something as seems to be their staple core products going forward, as something that they have to match the market with some of their other stuff and say, all right, no, this is ours. People are already buying Bardstown products for, whatever, $100 or whatever. So our stuff that people have been waiting on, we'll put it at 65, 75, 80 or something like that, just because that's what their products are bringing in, those higher price points. So
even the Fusion series comes in higher price point than this does.
Right. That's my point there. So I think it's fantastic to come in at that 8.75 on that whiskey. I like that sweetness, the floral, the fruitiness of it. And I'll get to the pairing as well. And I agree with you on Nate on that, especially the cigar. It's a solid 8 cigar. I mean, this is an everyday smoke for those that are looking for something on the bolder side. It's a little fuller. It's not going to be something that it's balanced, not the most complex thing you're going to smoke. As we've seen so far, this is something that, we might, I don't want to say we have construction issues, but it's an early product to the market here. So, I mean, this is something that, these guys know what they're doing with the cigars. I mean, they're pumping out a lot. This is coming from one of their big factories, right? In the El Credillo part of it. And anytime that, once, Ernesto initially sold La Gloria Cubana, and when he was still working with the company, the boxes still they used to say, I don't know if the new ones do, EPC on there, but they rebranded it to try to kind of come into their own again after several years. Anytime you rebrand stuff, people think it smokes differently.
Yeah.
This is too early to tell. I think this is mine smoking great. Again, construction wise, I'd give it like an 8 or so, because it's not like the ash doesn't stay on forever. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, you guys are having construction issues a little bit. Obviously you're getting through them fine. Sean's got plenty of smoke coming out of it now. It's a pleasant smoking experience. And I do like the flavor profile. I mean, I do think this is a solid cigar. And I'm not going to harp on it, but I think, again, the marketing behind it could have been a little tighter as far as that goes. I mean, they could have been a little more polished with the way they finished the touches on the marketing.
We didn't touch on this, but the wrapper's it's got kind of a rough look to it too.
Yeah. It's, it's a dark San Andres wrapper leaf. And it is a traditional, just round vitola. It's not going to be a hard press, box press, or anything like that. Sometimes we'll smooth those things out. I think it's what I expect, especially at that price point. The pairing, I'll give it a 7. It's not bad. It's just, I wouldn't do it again, right? This isn't something that this has been a poor experience, but the cigar takes away from the whiskey. I don't think the whiskey quite stands up to the cigar.
No.
As far as integrity of the product, right? So I think we could have gone, knowing now we've never had this bottle before, knowing more about this bourbon, definitely would have gone maybe a little bit more medium bodied, maybe you're holding up the Upman Nicaragua by AJ. It might go a little better with that. I think that, so from the La Gloria line, I think if we were to smoke last week's 8th Street from part 2, I think that would have gone very well with this coming out of that Altadis factory. It was that medium body. You didn't get to smoke that last week, did you?
No,
or did you? Yeah, no, you did.
Yeah.
Part 2. I think that would be something from the portfolio. I know it's limited, it's more expensive and all that stuff, but that would have paired up better with this. I think that's something that sometimes we have to look at as consumers when you're trying this. It's always fun to try different stuff. But when you light up a cigar, you pour a small, maybe like from your bar or whatever, or if you're at a cigar bar, you get the one pour of, say, something like this. Hey, I haven't had that yet. You'll know real quick before you're done with that cigar. Like, you're like, I'll get the second glass. I'm going to get something else. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because the cigar is going to last longer than the drink. But typically, with this garage.
I got a question about the cigar. When they're medium to medium full, it's stronger. It's like stronger in terms of the nicotine content.
Yeah.
And, okay, so that's why I'm kind of like buzzing a little bit. Okay, good to know.
It's also hot as shit.
That could help too.
Yeah, you probably sweated it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm watching all these comments come rolling in here.
Puts a new meaning to the term sweating to the 80s.
Yeah.
Sweating in the 80s.
Sweating in the 80s.
Sweating in the 90s.
All right, guys. That's the end of part 1. So, guys, thank you very much. Check out the sponsors. Check out the Gloria Cubana Serie S Maduro. Check out the Bardstown product we're drinking tonight. And also stay tuned if you're on live. You can walk away for a moment, but come on back for part 2. We're going to be actually, I put it on the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook. If you're not a part of that and you're listening, hopefully you guys will join that. We'll approve you, no problem, if you're a listener to the show. And this is going to be something where I just posted on that community page, hey, what do you guys want to talk about part 2? And that was about an hour and a half before the show. And we got a lot.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of go through some of that stuff. Love that. May not get to all of them, but this is kind of one of those things where I like we can kind of handle different comments. And
yeah.
Some will go long, some will go short. We'll see
audience
where we go.
Participation.
That's right. So, guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Be safe out there, and we will see you in part 2.
I'm going to go pee-pee.
You take a quick break.
Yeah, purified.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Easy.
Peripheral in a tight space. Awesome.
What are some of our other listeners smoking and or drinking tonight? Jesus.
Dick Van Dyke Show.
I'm doing one of those fake falls on.
Just right into the hood of my car. It's already got dents.
Not sure what Bobby Hirschman's triple crying, laughing out loud.
Took the last comment here from Jonathan. See? Aha. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Ray, I'm sorry. I know you said you're going to duck out here. I'm trying to, whatever reason, I don't think Sean is on his phone. My iPad, I have to keep swiping over and then back to get these comments coming up. I can't read the screen, but not trying to ignore anyone. But this is something like, I don't know why, but the way that Facebook sometimes works with the comments. What are you looking at over there? Was the yellow house?
Yeah, old lady right here.
Yeah, definitely could have been.
Well, she's welcome. You're welcome. Whew.
Yeah.
Batwing City right now, man.
Scorcher. Gross.
All right, Sean. Thank you for.
Here we go.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Everybody out there know what batwings are?
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to pull up my post here.
Oh, I was going to do that too.
For
Yeah.
the comments, yeah. All right.
Johnny 101, Johnny Tobacco Knot.
What about it?
That's what he's smoking next. John is.
Oh, that's a new one from Room 101. So Room 101 is Matt Booth's company. And that was also acquired by, and they hired, or however it went down. Matt Booth now works for, works with or for Forged and STG Group, General Cigars.
Tim Dodge, good to see that you were in town this week. Too bad we couldn't get together or get you into the garage. I had messaged him when he said he was coming into town. I was like, hey, if you're not, because he was looking for stuff to do.
Oh, he was in the Padron 7000 Natural. I know where he got that.
Yeah, I'd message him like, well, hey, come to the garage and take Sean's spot. So, whoa,
I'm always last option.
Did I just see Kristen post?
She just commented a bunch.
But like she commented a post in the feed. Usually she just texts you like just does me.
100 best things about Kristen.
Wow. I don't think we have time for that tonight, sweetheart.
Charcuterie board. That's one of them.
People do. Yeah. I feel like my list would be different than yours.
Yeah.
You want to pass
I hope so.
The rye, actually? Or you want to pour the rye? I don't know. You kind of looked at my glass.
Do you think it was a good call for Bardstown to do this at 96?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a daily or for easy drinking.
Yeah, that's good.
So you said this is the rye?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's the proof on that?
Finished 96 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Finished in toasted cherry wood and oak barrels.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be very different.
Huh?
Yep, and it's a 95 rye, 5% malted barley. Also 6-year. Yeah, again, this is their juice. So
Yeah, I'm still sweating like crazy, Bobby Hirschman. Drinking a lot of water though too. I finally have to truly relight.
Yeah, right at the beginning, it was just not getting that great of a draw. Now it wasn't like trying to drink a McDonald's milkshake, but it was.
But you had to pull on it.
Yeah, but then it didn't. Maybe a quarter of the way through, then it started opening up. So
Nice. All right, you guys ready? Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 279. This is part 2, Beyond the BS, and we are going to be going to the audience, the Bourbon and BS community page, which is on Facebook. Join that if you haven't already. Great group of people.
Yep.
Good posts, good involvement. Like I said, if you just are clicking in on the audio, make sure you check out part 1 as well. But towards the end, I mentioned that I posted like, what do you guys want to talk about in part 2, or what should we talk about? And we got several answers, so we'll see where we go with this.
Sure.
If you guys have anything on the live feed, the comments are trickling in on our I know, Nate, you're getting yours, it looks like. So if you see any, you're swiping as well. Something's going on differently tonight.
I've had to do that for a long time.
Oh.
Sweating like Mike Tyson is spelling bee.
That's a different one.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's hot. Steve, relight. Yeah, it's a drink for them. All right, so we've got some. You want to pick the first one? You got them up too, or you want me to pick one here?
Go ahead.
All right, so we'll just start. Let me see. We got Bobby Hirschman on here. First one. Let's see. So I'll read it. He doesn't know if it's a good topic. He said, the connections and friendships this group has made happen all over the country and even around the world. Pretty unique group of characters. Not sure it's a good topic, but I'm impressed with how many friends and others I communicate with often because of the show.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a sense of community. That's what we do on the show, that we want to do something a little different. There's a lot. I mean, if you're on like a bourbon group or cigar group or whatever the interest group, you do start communicating with certain members, I think, or you have some sort of a identity to that group and what it's about. Because typically you join groups because of a common interest, right?
Sure.
Or a friend invited you or whatever it might be. I did like, with some of the bourbon groups locally, especially, I've been a part of. I've been able to meet some of those people through like bourbon meetups when I was going to those several years back. That was kind of cool to put, true faces, not just pictures, but faces and to the names and the conversations. We were fortunate enough. The timing of the Bourbon and BS community page was I started that. It was October, I believe, of 2019.
Right.
So starting that page and getting it pumped up fairly quickly. And then when things shut down in March of 2020 and April 2020, it helped a lot of things. People were very much engaged in that group, among others, right? The podcast was still going on. We had to adapt. We had to do it remotely. We had to, you guys were on from your homes remotely. We started doing the StreamYard thing, which I think really changed that banner up there. I left that up there. That was my bad. I really think that was unique timing for the timing of that and what we got out of it. And then, fast forward to, I think it was 2 years later when we had our first Smoking 10 event.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that was not necessarily the first thing they got out to, but I mean, it was still when things were really getting back to normal, air quotes or whatever you want to do. But it was, we had people like Bobby Hirschman. We had Ray Cheshire, who had planned a trip that timed up surprisingly for that. And so we had people as far
Sean
as
Anderson from Tennessee.
yeah, we had Sean from Tennessee, we had Bobby from Philly, and a couple of boys from there. We had Ray from Vietnam, and Jane, his wife, had come into town and timed up because they were in the States. They had planned a trip because again, and I mean just the and then the reps and everyone. I mean everyone that came out to that 2022 event, it was like the culmination, I think, of a lot of the things that we had been doing on the podcast and what we had done with the Bourbon and BS community page. And just the you guys out there, and Bobby, what he's saying, with that is, it's impressive because I feel as though there are a lot of groups that people join, and that's the good use of social media. Yeah, social media has been misused, it's been misrepresented. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that this is, no matter what the topic is. You don't agree with people drinking and smoking, whatever the fuck, that's fine, but you got to that's the interest. And we were able to take it to a little bit step further. Yep. And not everyone, I think there's 1,700 members at the moment. Not everyone's engaging all the time, but again, doing this every week, I'm flattered and surprised also that people engage on the feed, on the comments like that. When I post that, maybe one person will come back in, and we had several people comment. Yeah. That's really cool.
That's what I love about this too, is the fact that, like you said, during COVID, for me, that was something I look forward to every week because everyone was stuck at home. So we at least had some sort of a way to connect with everyone, even though it was remotely. It was still something we all look for. At least for me, I look forward to. I go out to my patio if the weather was nice and have everything set up with a fire, and it was like it was my night to just be able to engage and kind of break free from staying at home all the time. And another thing too that I love about it is what you do with this podcast. Putting it on this page brings more people out to connect through each podcast by all the comments. And then I've noticed over the past couple of years of people that I've met that the minute they mention that they are into cigars, I'm like, are you on Facebook? All right, let's friend. All right, I'm putting you on this page. So it's like my uncle's on it now. Nice. And so like a lot of people that guy I just started working with, he's on it now. And it's been something that's been really nice. Not just that, but then now you take that and move forward to the present day. It's just growing. I think it's growing by the day in terms of, getting people out there. And then you take that and go into the shop if you're around here. And over the years, I've met so many people and then be able to connect with them there and through here. It's just been awesome.
I think there's two things to this and the community page. One is the whole purpose when the podcast started was, Steve, Jake, and then some of the other guys from the Tinder Box would meet up on Wednesday nights usually, and it was Whiskey Wednesday. Yeah, you guys were meeting up, you were bringing bottles, you were bringing cigars, and you guys were just chatting. It was just a garage full of guys hanging out and talking about life. And that was, the thing that Steve wanted in this podcast from the very get-go was that life topic aspect of it, that kind of brotherhood and camaraderie with it. Like, let's actually talk about what's going on. Let's do something where it's not just about getting together, smoking cigars and drinking. The whole purpose is to get together, talk while doing those things as well. But it's the communication. It's that bonding with one another that was, the driving force with the podcast from the get-go. Yeah. And that's where the community page came to be as well. It was another way to do that. And by doing this every single Wednesday, so all of our listeners know 7:30, 8 o'clock,
or 8 now,
we're going live, and it gives them something to look forward to as well as a way to virtually meet up, because virtual meetups are just as hard to plan as in-person meetups sometimes, because you got to work with people's schedules and you're spending days in advance or weeks in advance trying to figure out, hey, when are we going to meet up and actually talk? Well, we do this every single Wednesday. So because having that schedule and having that routine, it's a lot easier for people to, block some of that time period out of their schedule for this, because they know they're going to have a chance to talk with some of these people that they may not all talk to throughout the rest of the week in between episodes. So it's already on the calendar every single week. Like, hey, I got the podcast. Wonder what they're
if you're
gonna talk about
free
this
and
week.
you got to set up your notifications, all that stuff. But I mean, I know a lot of these guys like that are far away. Jonathan Herring. I mean, he was more local, not even local, but he was a local rep. Now he's in Texas. He's down on this right now because he's free tonight. Bobby Hirschman, they're going back and forth. Tim Dodge, now he's in South Carolina.
Yeah.
You got these people that are doing it. Ray was commenting, obviously. I do like Bobby's. I want to say, from this show, no lie, I have at least 15 cell phone numbers from this that he texts often with this group. He even had like Kristen and I, like there's a group message that he'll send a text to both Kristen and I, and it's in like we have a 3 person group message, and he'll just send a picture if they're out with like having a good time, or if he's whatever. Like every once in a while, I'll just send a nice note to both of us and be like, hey guys, thinking about you, and having a cigar, whatever it might be. And it's just that stuff is really, really cool.
And I think it allows us all to be vulnerable with topics that we do bring up over time, and you get to see sides of people or hear from sides of people that you may not have ever done that had you not had this podcast, because depending on the subject each week that we have, I fucking laid my heart out.
Yeah.
On this show, like hundreds of times, like with what I've been through medically with my, mental illness, mental health. And it's like also one of those things where you can, if you can go out and maybe touch somebody's life by an example that not just me or you guys, any other guests you've had on here, that you can sit back and go, holy shit, man, they had an incredible story. I'd have never known that had I not had the podcast.
Well, and then also how many times
relate to that too.
Yeah.
How many times do we get people from the cigar or spirit industry where we get them on this show and they've done podcasts before, they've done ones larger than ours even. But when we get some of those people doing the show, what's the one thing we always hear them say after the show? Like after we, end the live broadcast,
been on a podcast,
like
I guess.
This is completely different from any other show I've ever done.
Yeah.
Or we get a lot of people, they're like, I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I was kind of nervous going into it.
Didn't know how it was going to go.
Yeah. And then, they just open up and it just becomes natural and they just talk. And that's part of the beauty of it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys for those words. I mean, I do. I have a very personal, obviously, identity to the show and all you guys out there. So I do definitely appreciate that. You guys being a part of it every week for the most part, one way or another, Nate's on every week now and co-host and Sean, you're in the garage at the very least when you are available, even when you're working. I mean, it's great to have that support. And obviously all you guys out there that listen, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube or after the fact video or after the fact on the podcast app. Spencer's been a big supporter of the show. A lot of others. I mean, again, we don't have, thousands, millions of people listening, but it is cool to have that. And that's where I try to say, like, share it with people because, and share the community page, get more people involved, because you never know if people are free or they're like, I'm just looking for a podcast. They might click it on and after 5 minutes be like, these guys are boring as shit, or they don't like, why am I listening to this? But you might hit 1 or 2 people. Next topic. The next one on the line is from a friend of mine, Scotty Too Hottie. He just wrote UFOs. And Dimmick commented, and Bigfoot. All I'll say is UFOs are being talked about.
Yeah.
More now than ever.
Yeah.
In Washington. You were in the room when they were talking about that.
News, yeah.
I don't even know. I don't know the context. I'm not keeping up on this story. I'm not going to start like this big thing about this, but whoever they were like talking to on there or like was being interviewed at the
Air Force commander.
Yeah. And it's like, were they human or non-human? And he was just fucking huge. Non-human.
Yeah.
And he just looks at non-human, like it said.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and they're like, and they like cut away from the story. I'm like,
yeah.
Like that's where you're going to cut away from it.
Yeah. It's like there are aspects of Independence Day that are coming true.
Yeah.
Right. Shit. It's the thing is too, is like, you see, if anybody has Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, Reels are the big thing. And you see, there's so much of that people post like they see in the sky or you get an audio and you just always wonder, okay, it's so easy to doctor shit up, but then maybe there's like a handful that are legit. You just never really know, but it kind of still makes you think,
It does. What does UAP stand for? Jonathan says government is calling them UAPs.
Unidentified aerial.
It's a good guess. It's a good guess. We don't really need to tackle Bigfoot, but all right. Ooh, there's some good ones on here. I'm gonna skip to one here.
Okay.
Oh wait, Jonathan. Unexplained aerial phenomena.
There you go. That sounds right.
Seems right. Aaron Garner says AI.
Ooh.
You guys want to tackle that?
Oof.
Nate, I'm curious. What do you think about the AI? Chat. What is it? Chat
GP
GPT
or whatever,
isn't it? Well, yeah. What do you think, buddy?
That's a
we good with this?
Man.
We talking Skynet?
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
what I
Like,
was thinking.
all right, we got parts of Independence Day coming true. We got parts of Terminator coming
The future
true.
is now, man.
For years though, what was one of the more historically accurate predictive movies? Demolition Man.
Yeah.
I mean,
Back to the Future did all right for a little while.
yeah.
Hoverboards never have. Flying cars, no.
They
Cubs winning the World Series.
They got that right.
Yeah, that was cool. I like that.
That's funny.
That was nice.
Were they right on the year?
It was close.
It was pretty darn
It was
close.
fucking close.
Close enough for government work.
That's when you knew you were writing fiction when you said the Cubs are going to win the World Series in the future. Like that's never going to happen.
No, yeah, it's. I mean, I see kind of both sides of it. It's just some of the accuracy. Like if you ask, chat, whatever, like, hey, here's a question, and then you read like what it posts out, like 1 paragraph, 2 paragraph response. You're just sitting there going, holy shit!
There's one where you can reach out to your and say, write me a 1,000-page essay on a certain subject, and it'll pop it out like that.
Yeah. Well,
crazy.
and then you have the issue like in schools where you have people using that to write essays. And there was a professor's like, yeah, so a bunch of you use Chat GPT to write your essay. So from now on, everything's got to be handwritten instead of typed out. And then someone's like, all right, cool. I have my computer.
They just handwrite what it said.
No. I have my computer with Chat GPT hooked up to a 3D printer that has a pencil in it, and it is writing out what it types out. It is making it look like cursive, writing it out. It's like, jeez.
I think the most accurate where we're headed is that movie Idiocracy.
Yes.
Where it's like, yeah, no, you know how to use all the technology. Like, a 2-year-old can use an iPad, even though I can't all the time. But it's like you have that they're learning how to use the technology, which is great. But when it comes to actual original thought and everything else, there's nothing there.
Didn't you read Jonathan Herring?
No.
Okay.
Is it the real long one here?
Yeah. Ask Chat GPT about your podcast. As of my last update in September 2021.
Look at this. It's up on the screen.
So it takes up the whole screen.
Yeah.
The Bourbon and BS podcast was a podcast that focused on discussions about bourbon, whiskey, and various topics related to it. The hosts typically shared their thoughts and opinions while enjoying different bourbons during the show. However, please note that the podcast landscape may have changed since then. No, it hasn't. So I recommend checking more recent sources to get the latest information about the Bourbon and BS podcast.
So the only thing I can think of is that, so this is maybe from when you go on like the description that I put in for the podcast, like on the podcast apps, they went off of, what I put on there, where it's like, we rate and we drink different bourbons and whiskeys, and it doesn't talk about cigars on there, but
they got the whiskey part, and they got the various topics related to it.
Well, again, if you look at the description of the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, that's what I wrote.
It's just going to pull from different.
But it is interesting that, that it pulls from all that stuff, which again, all the privacy stuff, the public stuff out there. I mean, what is this thing pulling from?
Yeah.
Ask Chat GPT. What app are you using, Jonathan? That's my question. Because I'd be curious how far you can dive down into that, right? Like if you say, Jonathan, ask and post, ask Chat GPT, who is Jonathan Herring, and see what it says. It'll probably maybe not bring up that person, but
You're like a gigolo or
Then
male.
what is Steve Crane?
I had a customer in today actually did say, he's like, yeah, I was asking about it too, and the AI and the chat GPT. And he said something like his kid was doing the same thing you were talking about. And it's like, I guess you can ask them for you can ask it for an outline of a paper topic or whatever. Then at least you have a little framework you can work off of. You're putting a little thought into it and all that stuff. But he's like, yeah, no, I'll let you know how it goes. I'm gonna write a movie script tonight on it, and I'll let you know how it turns out.
Oh yeah,
I can just turn on Netflix for that shit now.
Yeah,
because those Netflix movies coming out right now are poor.
Yeah, that's not accurate, Jonathan. Legal scholar and professor. Nope.
Different guy.
Yeah. That's the famous Jonathan Herring, not the infamous
Different
Jonathan
guy.
Herring.
All right. Do you guys want to keep talking about AI?
Nope. Although I do like
it's a scary place.
I will say this, like some of the AI generated artwork, like some of those things where you're like, hey, take, characters from this movie and make them look like this cartoon. And then some of the artwork that comes out from that, holy shit, some of that stuff's amazing.
Isn't that some of the filters you can do now too? Like on certain, like if you do a reel and you're in filter, do you think some of that's AI?
I don't know. Well,
sure it is. Yeah.
I mean, like it's crazy though what you can do and how you can make yourself look on those. And it's just such an easy thing to go to now.
I haven't seen, but like I've seen, like there was one that popped up. It was like, if like the Fast and the Furious movies took place in the 70s, and it had all like the characters and like 70s everything, like the backgrounds, the clothing, the hairstyles, all that stuff. I don't know if people are doing like, all right, show me Paul Walker, doing that in the 70s, and then they're putting it together, or it literally is that easy to be like, Fast and the Furious movie takes place in the 70s, hitting enter, and then it just pumps out everything. I don't think it's that easy, but maybe. I don't know.
Well, Jonathan Herring uses the app, so
is it just a free app?
Is it? Yeah, I was gonna say, is it free or is it cost?
3.0 is free. 4.0 is not free.
Premium, you got.
I would be very curious to read those terms and conditions on that one. If you just hit yes on that, I agree. You're already fucked. I think.
Yeah,
I really do.
Kind of like with TikTok.
You just filtered, they filtered through your phone already.
You guys watch the Black Mirror? You guys watch that?
It's been a minute.
The newest episode, the newest season. There's like 5 or 6 episodes, but the first one was called "Joan is Awful." I think it was, and it was like they start with this scene. I'm not going to give away everything, but they start with like the scene, this lady, whatever, and then all this stuff, and she gets home after her day, and they're like, "Oh, let's check out. You want to sit down after dinner and watch something on Netflix?" And they call it like something else, but it's a Netflix show. And so everything, they're sitting in front of the TV, and they come across this TV show that's called Joan is Awful, and her name is Joan, and she's with her husband, I think fiance or whatever. And she has a really like weird like streak in her hair in the front or whatever. Yeah. This lady, and then on the screen it's Salma Hayek, but she has the same hairstyle. And so they're like, "No, that's what." Like, and she's like, "No, that doesn't look like me." Blah blah blah. And it's like it's a total depiction of her full day.
Wow.
And it just goes from there. And it's all about like this AI and all this stuff. And it's really, I thought it was interesting.
Jonathan Herring asked it to write a toast for the podcast.
Drink.
Here's to the blend of bourbon's embrace with fine cigars, creating a space. In this podcast, we find moments pure and refined. Toasting friendship, laughter, and grace. Cheers.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
It's taking over the world. All right, next topic.
Yeah. And moving on.
We're all screwed.
Yep.
Ann Dimmick, is it good to meet your hero?
I guess who's your hero?
Yeah.
Would be your first question.
Yeah, I think that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, because you have those. Man, I heard that thing crack. Jesus. Yeah, it can be. If you have someone that you look up to, a celebrity, something like that, and then you finally get to meet them. Like, I mean, hero is a strong word, but sometimes meeting those heroes, and then when you find out they're kind of a dick behind the camera, you're like, shit, I'm never gonna watch a movie with that guy again, or that guy's a complete ass. I hate him. Like, then it can ruin your perception of that person.
Yeah,
it might make it a more accurate perception, but it ruins the perception you had of that person. But it can go the other way too.
I've seen some
of the celebrities we've met in the Tinder Box. Some of them have been really cool to hang out and talk to.
Yeah.
Some of them have been, kind of a dick, but they're not necessarily heroes of ours. But when you get the opportunity, when you get the opportunity to just sit down and talk with them, like, they're not on camera, they're not recording anything, they're more themselves. Like, sometimes that can be absolutely great. Yes, Jess, that's exactly who I was thinking of. Some the one story I tell quite a bit about, one of the more famous people I've met in the shop, then being able to go next door and have cigars.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, have cigars. Literally get invited to go have beers and cigars next door with a celebrity.
Yeah,
like, that was cool.
Yeah. I think hero it's a you put them up on a pedestal. Why? How much do you know about them? But I mean, I think it all goes back to they're people, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, they've got their own shit going on. So if they're a celebrity, if they're whatever you're into, I guess, right? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If it's like a comedian, an actor, a politician, like anything really, an athlete, whatever it is. I mean, you see, hopefully, if they're good at it, and today it's a little more transparent, but you see what they want you to see.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they're having a bad day, if they're having whatever it might be, you know what I mean? I take it back to the cigar world. Not really a hero of mine, but it's like the first time that I met Rocky Patel. It was at Cigar Fest, which is a Cigars International. It was a thing that I went with a customer and friend of mine, Brad Grimsley, who's been on the podcast.
He was just in the shop this weekend.
Rocky?
No, Brad.
Oh, I didn't see him. But I'm saying, like, we went out there, and it's like his brother Nish had been in a Smoking 10 event several times. And so, like, I was, I know that's an event that there's 3,000 people a day, 1,000 at a time, and they're basically handing out cigars, right? And so Rocky was there, and, I'd already talked to Nick Perdomo, who was very nice because I had met him before, and he remembered the shop. He asked about Brian, how's his wife doing, all this stuff. I saw Eric. I knew Eric already a little bit more, Eric Espinosa. And so, like, so these guys are taking pictures. Sam Lucia was there when he was doing his own Lucia tobacco thing. And they're taking pictures with the guys. And I saw Rocky at his booth. And I'm like, hey, I'm Steve, I work at Tinder Box at Easton, Columbus, Ohio. And he's just like, oh, nice to meet you. Mm-hmm. And, like, acted like that kind of stuck-up celebrity. And I'm like, the fuck, man? Like, all right, well, that wasn't what I was expecting. I don't expect, like, royal treatment because I'm in the retail side. But it's like, I saw Nish, and Nish was nice and all that stuff. And it was a few years later that I saw Rocky again, and he was totally different.
Yep.
Super nice. And then I saw him again after he committed to the 2020 Smoking 10 event that had to get canceled. I went to the Burn soft opening.
Yes.
And he was towards the front of the bar, and place is fairly packed. And so we walk in. It was me and Avi, who's a sport of the podcast, good friend. And we walk in. And he's at the bar. He turns and looks at us walking in the front door, and he puts his drink down. And he comes straight over to me. He's like, looking forward to March. I'm looking for and he's just like, completely different person. So it's like, I think that's something you keep in mind. Like, is it good to meet your heroes? Maybe not.
Yeah.
If it's like, it depends on the situation, the venue, the everything about it. If you're just like if you're at a bar and they're in a good mood, sure, probably. You know what I mean? Or if it's like something you're like, a friend introduces you to someone that you look up to, I think that's great. If you're in one of those, like, I think it's based on your expectations.
Yeah. He's the one cigar name that I've heard probably the most polarizing sides of it is Rocky. I've had people, we've had people come in like, I met him, he was a dick. And it's like, well, when I met him, like, he was cool. He actually came up and talked to me. Like, And, I could potentially see someone like Guy Fieri being that way too. Like, if you just happen to run into Guy, doing, just his whatever his daily thing is. Like if you just happen to run into him, it might be one thing, but like if we had him at the Smoking Ten event, like that could be a little bit different. Or if he was ever traveling with Tyler and Tyler brought him in, that could be something that's a little bit different. It depends on the situation, the environment.
I had a neat kind of a story. Most people here give me shit 'cause I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I had a chance to hang out with a quarterback. He won the national championship for Notre Dame. His name is Tony Rice, and got to hang out at an event, and him and I chatted for quite a bit, and it was really cool. But a few months later, I was diagnosed with the brain tumor I'd brought up before. The day after I was diagnosed, he called me and he was like, anything you need, I'm here. Here's my home number. Here's my cell number. Here's my work number. Here's my email. 24/7. I got you. Whatever you need. I'm in your corner. You're going to get through this. And it was just like, I was dumbfounded. I was like, he did not have to do that. And it gives me cold chills to this day, even thinking about it, just because like somebody to be at his level and to be able to go out of his way to do that, it just meant the world to me. And the other one thing too, as Bobby brought up, was like people that that you consider heroes. There's a handful of people, a couple friends and people I used to work with, my bosses and my coaches and stuff that I played soccer with, for in high school. It's like those guys are all my heroes because they made a big impact in my life. And like I take a lot of what they've taught me and apply to it every day and use it as an opportunity to be able to share what they've shared with me to other people, to say, hey, this is what I learned from somebody who had a huge impact on me. This is how I get through this situation. So yeah,
I think that goes back to what you were saying. How do you define heroes? Because right. I think that a true hero is someone that has truly impacted your life personally. And I'm not to take away from people you look up to that you've never met before, mm-hmm. but to Ann's topic, suggestion there, it's like, I think hero, as we get older, it means something different. Mm-hmm. I think it does. I mean, would I like to meet Michael Jordan? Absolutely. As a kid, was he a hero? For sure, probably. You know what I mean? If I defined it mm-hmm. that way. So was fucking Spider-Man and Superman. You know what I mean? So it's like now, it's like as an adult, I'd like to meet him, but I already know that it may not go the way I want it to go, and we're not going to be best friends after that. I'm not going to have Michael Jordan's cell phone. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm just going to – it's someone I looked up to, and I can appreciate what he's done.
Yep.
I think that, the idea of hero changes as we get older. All right, let's roll on to the next topic. Let's see. Doug Ruffalo says bacon. We can talk about that.
It's crack.
I got one from Ray. We'll get to that. I know he's not listening to part 2, but hopefully he comes back and listens to it later. But while we have everyone on here, Jonathan Herring, he did comment. He's listening tonight. Books, shows, or movies that impacted how you saw the world.
Good subject, good topic.
Yeah. Who wants to start?
I could go with a book. It was called Debt, the First 5,000 Years.
Debt or dead?
Debt. D-E-B-T.
Okay.
Debt, the First 5,000 Years. It was written by a gentleman, I think his last name was Graeber. I think it was Daniel Graeber.
Mr. Graeber.
I have to try and keep those separate because my best friend in college was Ben Graeber. So
okay.
I always remember the last name.
Feels nice.
But it was like
storm's coming.
It was like a
fucking cold front would be nice.
It was like a 600-page book.
Yeah.
It was a 600-page book that I remember sitting outside on my patio in my first apartment, and I would read that. I'd have a cigar, and I had a pen and a pad of paper. I was taking notes. I was underlining stuff. Mm-hmm. Basically, the gentleman that wrote it, he is an economic anthropologist.
Okay.
Yeah. So
wow.
What he did for this book is he kind of analyzed how cultures and societies interacted around this concept of debt, going back to like 3000 BC Mesopotamia.
Okay.
And one of the stories he tells early on in the book, I think like the first chapter, was when he turned 18. As for his 18th birthday, his present from his father was a bill that was the cost of raising him all the way back to when he was born, like the doctor's delivery fee. And it was a bill for the cost of raising him.
That was a gift?
That's what his dad handed him as an 18th birthday present.
Kind of a dick move.
Exactly. And, but like, that's how when he saw that, like, that's how his father perceived that relationship. And so,
life lesson, yes. The amount of time, if that bill is accurate, that he put in either like last minute, trying to remember everything, or if he literally, as he was having a child, he's like, I'm going to teach him something someday, or this asshole is going to cost me money and I'm going to add it up out of spite. I'm curious on how this started.
Yeah, he doesn't go into. I don't think he went.
He got the hospital bill. It's like, this motherfucker.
I don't think he went into.
And he needs diapers.
And he wants allowances.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I don't think he went into the detail of like why his father did it. Because I don't think he ever asked, because what he ended up doing was, through working and through school, and he ended up paying his father back for all of that, and then never spoke to his father again.
He paid him back?
Yeah, he's like, okay, if you're serious about this, which his father was, he's like, all right.
I was joking when I said dick move. Like,
yeah,
that's in those 18 years, there were some other issues happening. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, that was not a good family unit there.
Yeah. So over time, he paid him back, and then since he paid his father back, he never talked to him again, because he realized
this is the author.
Yeah, he realized that his relationship with his father was strictly monetary.
Yeah.
So he's like, if that's what you're going to build our relationship on, fuck you. I'll pay it, and then fuck off, stay out of my life.
What's the lesson here?
Well, don't be a dick.
No, me? I'm not trying to.
No. I was quoting a movie.
Fun trying to split a dinner bill with him.
But I mean, shit. But the reason he told that story was, like I mean, we've probably all lended money to family. How many of those family members have ever paid it back, or what's the strain that it causes on the relationship?
I think that's more a commentary on that relationship. I mean, clearly that was fucked up.
Or is it a contraceptive?
Where's mom in this?
Is there a contraceptive like don't get pregnant is how much you have to pay for after 18 years?
That's what he should have done.
Yeah.
He should have been like, the cost of a condom
compared to
$1,
yeah,
and then the cost of raising a kid, $250 grand
from the get-go.
But
cost of a vasectomy.
But no, I'm like,
that's that bottle.
But no, I've had
the original. You want to save the rye, right?
Sure. But no, I mean, I've had relationships in my life as well where, people, I'll come out and say it. There were times where, my mom wanted money for something, and I'd give her money for something.
Victoria's the same, by the way.
But there was always this, like, wait a minute, you're going out and spending, $60 getting your nails done, but
you gotta look good, man.
But you needed me to, pay X number of dollars for whatever this was. Like, it definitely strained our relationship at a time. And it got to a point where if you want to be over it and like actually have a relationship with that other person, like sometimes you just have to sit there and be like, all right, I'm going to give this person the money for this. I don't ever expect it back.
Right. But you have to watch that slippery slope of those individuals in your life that are just takers, right?
Because I've got
come back and,
I've got another family member right now that with what's going on in their household, they've been calling up other family members trying to get money for stuff, and literally you start hearing through the grapevine from other family members like, hey, if this person calls you asking for money, don't fucking give them any money.
I heard a story, actually. I was in Chicago, and this is a little more, I think, funnier, but we went to Las Vegas for my grandmother's 89th birthday. So I was in Chicago, and we were hanging with my cousins and aunts and uncles. This was years ago, right? This is probably more than that, right? But I remember the story, or I remember the experience going out there with my grandma, and it was like, there's probably 25 of us. I don't know, give or take, right? Not all the kids, my cousins didn't have kids at the time, and my grandmother, I'd walk up and she was playing slots or whatever. I'm like, so like, how you doing? She's like, I've won, I don't know, $500. I'm like, are you up $500? Or you won $500? She's like, I won $500. I'm like, oh, okay. And I just goes like, all right, Graham, have fun. I'm like, you're not up $500. No. Like you're probably down. And there's no inheritance ever. But it was, and then I hear recently, literally 2 weekends ago, and it was like, she had money, but it was like, I don't know what it was, but she asked several family members if like she could borrow like $200 or whatever, like, so she wouldn't have to go take out money.
Oh shit.
And apparently there were multiple family members that had loaned her money for her birthday weekend in Vegas. And like I said, it's not that she didn't have the money, but it was like, I'm sorry, that's a little lighter take on that is that they're like, yeah, sure, I'll loan you a couple $100 for the slots machines. Yeah. Never saw it again.
Well, so while we were talking about that,
no disowning of family members in that story. I'm sorry. Like
while we were
different.
While we were talking about that, Jess texted me and reminded me, and I had completely forgotten about it. There was a time years ago where my mom asked us to go out to dinner with her and my stepdad to Red Lobster, but then also
great family place.
This was Jess's word. I don't necessarily remember this word being thrown out, but Jess said my mother demanded a Red Lobster gift card, so that way, like, it would offset the bill. Like, hey, I want you to come out to dinner with us, but by the way, give us a gift card so that way we can pay for our dinner.
Essentially, you're just paying for the dinner.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nice. I know.
She donated to the podcast a while back. So
she did.
Thank you, Victoria.
I know you mentioned movies too, and one that stands out to me, and I haven't seen it forever, but it kind of had an impact, was Remember the Titans.
Oh, great movie.
Great movie, a great message. And you don't really, you hear from the history of what it was like back then, but they did a really good portrayal of what it was really like and what these poor kids went through, but how they were able to overcome racism. I mean, not completely, but they were able to bond over that. And over time, the coaches were able to bring them together and show them solidarity. And at a time back then, usually that's unheard of. And
we're getting back to it.
Yeah.
Sorry to say that.
Yeah, I know. And that's what makes me sad, is to think that that's what it's getting back to, because
so divisive now.
Yeah. And there's just so much, and it's not just, it's just everyone's against everyone. And I remember, I've seen a lot of it lately. It's like as sad as 9/11 was, and as horrible and horrifying it was, the only kind of a silver lining that came out of it is the solidarity that the country had. It didn't matter race.
Remember some of the commercials that came out afterwards, with like immigrants and stuff, like everyone waving the American flag.
I know. And it's like, it takes something like that.
Boy, 20 years and that all went to shit.
Yeah.
And amazing what a common enemy will do to a society.
Yeah.
And then what happens when we no longer have a common enemy? We go back at each other's throats.
Right.
Yeah.
War is always good to fix things, fix an economy, fix a nation, all that stuff. War is usually the best option when you look back at history, because what does it do? It takes your focus away from your own internal problems, and you have a common enemy.
Yeah. Or the country's internal problems. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. For me, this is funny for a lot of people, but I've said this a long time. There's a lot of, not a big reader as far as the books and stuff, but I mean, I've had a lot of movies and shows and all that stuff that really kind of frame. Sometimes I get really into a show that, like, binging a show, especially towards the when that first started, when you had like Netflix coming out or whatever it was, Hulu, like you were able to actually binge a show, and you didn't have to wait a week for the next episode, that kind of stuff. Like, not as much anymore because I'm not as like there's nothing that's really grabbing my attention. But there were times I'm trying to think of shows that did it, but there were when that was a new thing. It's like instead of now I watch the news in the morning or whatever, it's like no, it's like I got a half hour as I'm like drinking coffee or whatever. It's like I don't want to get the next episode's an hour long. I'm gonna get at least a half hour in before I go to work. You know what I mean? And then I'm at work and I'm like doing whatever, and it's like as soon as I get home, I gotta watch the rest of that because I'm like this is like weeks at a time. You know what I mean? Like if I remember like binging like Mad Men, and it was like I remember that show was like I love that time period, and it's like there's so many terrible things that happen in that show, right? And it was a different time, but it was such an accurate. According, I was not there, but I mean, from what they say, it was like such an accurate depiction of like everything was authentic. Like they recreated everything down to like the fucking cigarettes, and it was like it immersed you into that. You know what I mean? You start. I was like, I can't wait for this, and then as soon as like like any TV show, you get to a certain season, you're like, all right, they're just doing it because they were granted another season. This isn't what they originally. But a movie for me was.
What was the first first series you ever binged on Netflix?
I don't know, man.
That was Breaking Bad.
Rescue Me was one that I binged.
I did binge that, but it was years later after it had gone off the air. Because you kept making references and talking about it. So I was like,
such a good show.
Because it was on FX.
You blitzed through it, didn't you?
Oh, I did.
It was good.
Yeah, I watched like all 8. I watched all 8 seasons in like.
You gotta remember this is a different time.
Yeah,
and so some of the stuff.
The first thing I ever binged was Dexter.
It's a good show too. I like that. For me, I want to say the movie that really this was a time period in my life. I was in college. I just switched from mass comm to sociology, and the movie Fight Club came out.
Oh yeah,
based on the book Fight Club, and it was from a not as well known author at the time. So the movie just you had Ed Norton, you had Brad Pitt in there. Was a Helen Bonham Carter.
Jared Leto was in it.
Jared Leto was in it, and he was a
Meatloaf.
really bit. Meatloaf was in it and was a bit part. But it was so that movie hit when I think I was 19 or 20 years old between my sophomore and junior year. I had just switched from sociology and I was getting into sociology, and that movie came out and the book came out, and it was such a commentary on society in general. And again, everyone got different stuff from it. It was Fight Club. So it was like, dudes and fighting and all that stuff. But it's like, you really watched it. There was so much. And that author, Chuck, I think Palahniuk or something like that. He had other books. They made another movie, Choke. It wasn't as good. But that was the first time that I watched a movie and then I went back and read the book. And David Fincher was the director of the movie. And I've never... Like you always hear these people like, oh, I really like the movie. It's like the book's better. That was like there were maybe 2 scenes in the book that weren't in the movie, but the way that movie like bounces back and forth and everything, that's how the book was written. It was maybe the best adaptation of a book to a movie. But the way that hit me when I was getting into sociology, it completely hit me very, very in a strong way where it's like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing in my life by changing my major to sociology and learning about people and societies and all that stuff.
Jess is like, why is that every dude's favorite movie?
Has she watched it?
I don't know if she has or not.
It's very vivid. It's very
definitely
graphic.
Not in my top 10,
but it's like when you read the book, it's the same thing. I mean, it was like because it does relate to guys. There's another one I think that he wrote called, I think it was Invisible Monsters. And that was about, I think if I remember, I think it was called Invisible Monsters. And that one was more about like, it started with like a beauty queen that got, she was basically maimed in a sense in a crime or whatever and lost her identity as a pretty person. Yeah. And it was the same thing. Like it kind of started from a different perspective. It was written by a dude. It was, all that stuff, but it was something that was a very big commentary on just people at the time. And That was a movie that really that hit me. One of my favorites. Not one that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go watch Fight Club tonight. I don't do that anymore. But it was like 20 years old. That hit. Yeah, there was the.
An impact.
It was a big impact.
Yeah.
Jess did say yes. I watched it, hated it. Which I get. That's not her style of movie.
I see where you're coming from, though.
I like David Fincher though. Also, Seven is another great movie from him.
Oh, yeah.
Love Seven. Whatever that means about me.
7 was good.
I think a lot. I've noticed too. Is like Teresa and I have been watching like old school 80s movies. Like the other day we watched Better Off Dead, and
I love that one.
Like all these movies.
I've got that on DVD.
That's nostalgic, and I think it sometimes brings you back to a simpler time where the nostalgia for me, I love it, and it's just about how things were back then and how so much has changed between now and then, and what they thought was a big deal, or what was what was such a big deal back then wouldn't even be considered anything right now, but it brings you back and allows you to kind of relive that as in the past as when you were living back.
What is your favorite movie, Sean?
That's the author of it. I put it on screen. Yeah, Jonathan
probably said. I have so many, but I still go back to as a kid. It was Star Wars.
Okay.
The original Star Wars is my favorite.
Episode 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was above and beyond anything I'd ever seen, especially back in that day. Yeah. It was just good storyline, obviously, and just the characters that were portrayed. And to this day, it's,
Star Wars. Well, yeah, as a child, that was a huge impact. I was born in 1980, so I think the first movie from what I'm told, I was taken to was Return of the Jedi in '83.
Okay.
So I was 3 years old. I was a baby. You should not. Don't bring a 3-year-old into the theater. That's bad for everyone.
Jaws was another one too. Jaws was like a really good.
How about you?
So it's funny, when I was doing door to door at AEP, every time we'd have a new group of people come in, we'd always have a team meeting, and that was like one of those icebreakers. Sometimes, like, all right, go around, say your name, where you're from, and we're gonna do what's your favorite movie. And as soon as they said we're gonna do your favorite movie, I'm like, oh shit, I'm about to scare the ever-loving crap out of a lot of my coworkers.
Let's go. What is it?
Natural Born Killers.
Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's gonna turn off some people there.
Because
everybody thinks immediately you got yourself tucked in there going art
folk. I was gonna
movie.
say, who you identify with? That's a follow-up question.
No.
Who's your favorite character?
No, just
that?
He's a Tucker.
The God, fuck you, Sean.
What is happening right now? Where are we at?
Turn the camera off. I got to stab Sean.
We're not even 2 hours in.
But no,
short
I mean,
episode.
There
or a long one.
Multiple aspects of that movie that I love. The way it was directed, the way it was shot. Like, if you ever notice, whenever Clarice and Hannibal are talking, the camera angle always points to Starling from Hannibal's point of view. So anytime she's talking to him, the camera's always looking directly at her as though you were him. And then also probably the most terrifying villain that for the majority of the movie never touches anybody. He never does it. He always he beats you with his mind.
Yeah.
The next closest to that I think we ever saw in film was then when Heath Ledger played Joker in Batman.
Yes.
Because again, it was a mental thing.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't physically doing stuff. It was all the mental games that he was playing.
Yeah.
Do you think
made him such a great villain?
That was amazing. Yeah.
Do you think that film would have, and Heath Ledger's performance would have had the impact that it did? And this is an honest question.
Yeah. I'm never gonna ask.
If he didn't pass away, right after.
I think so.
So let me frame this a little differently. Okay, I agree. I think that I love Christopher Nolan. I want to see the new movie. I think that trilogy was fantastic. Right, to take a comic book and to make it more real. Right, it's still a comic book. Right, you know what I mean? He's dressed up as a bat. Like,
speaking of Christopher Nolan, there's only been 15 IMAX cameras ever produced. Chris Nolan's broken 4 of them.
Yeah, I remember hearing that. But my point is, so like the legend of Heath Ledger, where would he go from there? Say he's still alive now and he's made another 10 films. What do you think that would look like? We're going way off like audience. At this point.
I know.
Like, I mean, this is the.
I don't think he would.
he was hitting some like that Brokeback Mountain was like a big controversial. It was a well done film, no matter what your viewpoint is on that.
His role in The Patriot was a big one that helped launch him too.
Yeah.
I don't if he was still around, I don't think he would have been cast in roles similar to him as the Joker.
Yeah.
Because
would he have been typecast?
No, because he's done so many different roles.
He had range.
I don't think he would have been typecast, but I think other directors would have looked at his performance in that movie and had gone, you know what? If we try and cast him in any type of role similar to that, in like a psychological thriller, it's always going to fall short of that. So do we not just do it and we just go get someone else?
I will say, I watched a clip from the guy who was the district attorney and then had half his face blown off, and they had that scene in the hospital.
Yeah.
And he was saying that during that whole scene, before they shot it, he was in character the whole time, and he was like getting himself like just mumbling and growling and so, and he always stayed in that character.
That was the first scene they shot together, I think.
Yeah. And he said it was the most like organic and amazing scene he'd ever shot, because he believed he believed who Heath Ledger's character was. It was like he was almost had this like, holy shit, I'm talking to the real.
It's a very different role than Knight's Tale or 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah, fucking love.
I know it's a great, but
he was an unknown at that time.
No, but he had
great
range. I think the other movie.
I'll say it.
I think the other movies that he'd done before that, though, showed that he had range to do a lot of things. And I think, as adaptable as he was to all those characters in the movies he's done, I think he could have just done anything he wanted.
I would have loved to see. He would have been in my opinion, I think he would have been with like Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't think he would have won the award after he passed, obviously, for being Joker, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think he's in that. It would have been cool to see how he would have played into other movies. I think he would have been he would have been in Inception. He would have been in Tom Hardy. Probably wouldn't have been in Inception. I think I look at some of the Christopher Nolan movies after that, and I think that he would have been in those along with others, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like has really blossomed. Like watching him do that stuff. I think it would be a similar path of Levitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hardy. I mean, he would have been able to fit these roles of things that you're just like, holy shit.
Would be curious to know is how many scripts he had with him or offered him after that movie before he passed to see what he would have already offered. I feel like he probably had a shitload to choose from.
All right. Another one from oh shit, we got another fucking spammer.
Oh boy.
Do we?
Yeah.
I need 50.
Kristen Flock. Hello, my bourbon sippers. I found a new home, and here's the link. I'll get on that. I'll introduce this next one here. Kevin Caldwell. Hello, my bourbon sipper friend. Blah, blah, blah. And said, when have people really surprised you, good and bad?
That's a good question.
I'm going to go on here and block this person while you guys talk about that. When have people really surprised you, good and bad?
I think people that I've known that have, like off the cuff, I'm thinking maybe people that have cheated on their spouse or something would have happened where they're like, holy shit, I never would have pictured them to do that. Stuff like that. I think I know maybe a few, but I'm not going to obviously name names, but
please don't.
But I think that
I'm going to.
There's like infidelity is a big one where people, you think everything's fine, or even couples themselves where everything's hunky dory, and Facebook and social media has a good way of putting the everyone's highlight reel on, so everybody thinks that everything's great, but then when you see something where they're vulnerable and it's like this out of left field, it's like, I think that's where I see a lot of that. It's like, holy shit, I had no idea,
Yeah.
So
a couple. I'll start with the negative, then end on the positive.
That's nice.
Negative, I'd go back to when I was in middle school and found out that my pastor, myself, and my mother were being kicked out of our church because the pastor's wife was having an affair. And then when confronted about it, she went to the church board and accused him of having an affair with my mother.
Holy shit. Yeah, that's a shock.
And
it's real quick.
So yeah, so it
heard this story before.
Yeah, it caused us to not only have to leave the church, but we had to move. We had to leave. We left the neighborhood I grew up in, my childhood home, in order to be able to get a little bit of distance away from those people, to where if we were out at the grocery store, there was a much lesser chance of running into any of those people. And there were a lot of people that when that happened, they sided with her. Like even the pastor's own family, like even his own brother, like believed her over him.
Wow.
And so like he didn't have a relationship with his brother, his nephew, for years. It even strained the relationship with his kids, because he didn't even tell his kids entirely what had happened until his son was significantly older than their daughter. So, at a point when the son was of age, like he told his son what had happened. I didn't know, even though the daughter at the time would have been, say, 19 or 20. I didn't know that I was the one that through the grapevine ended up telling her the real reason her parents divorced.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she found out about it from me, but through the grapevine.
Wow.
And that was the only time he ever was pissed at me, like every time, because he ended up marrying my mother. That was my stepfather. Mm-hmm. My stepfather was the pastor of a church, and his wife stepped out. And
wow,
yeah,
wow.
Shawnee.
So that was definitely someone surprising you for the bad way.
Right.
Yeah.
Good way was then years later, after I was out of college, I found out that he liked cigars, but he had been nervous about telling me because he thought it would have a negative impact on how I viewed him, that he was a cigar smoker, even though I was a cigar smoker.
Right.
And there had been over the years, there had been people that, like if they found out about it, it had a negative impact on how they viewed him. But for me, it had a positive impact on how I viewed him, because that was then something that he and I had, a common interest. And so now that was something that he and I could actually bond over and do together. So we could actually like, hey, I like cigars. You like cigars. You want to go sit on the patio, have cigars and a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Like it actually strengthened our relationship.
Of course, yeah.
So that was a good surprise.
I did have I grew up, went to Catholic school for 12 years. And when I was in grade school, there was a priest that I found out much later as I was an adult that he was molesting boys in the school that I was at. And I was fortunate enough not to be one of the victims, but I knew a couple of the kids personally that were and had no fucking idea. And there were times though where he came over to our house for dinner, and he was this tall guy, and I was a kid and I thought he was cool. He always played football with us at recess, and he's like, here, I'll give you a drunk camel ride. And I got on his shoulders, and he was playing with me in the backyard. And I'm like, man, if this motherfucker's was probably priming me up to maybe
do some
shit, you know? Yeah. And fortunately I dodged that bullet, but to think that I could have been a victim of that fucking scares the shit out of me and blew me away.
Wow. Well, I can't follow those up. I'll say this anymore. Maybe it's the age. Maybe it's, being a little calloused on some of the stuff. And again, this is a suburban white guy here, right? But nothing really surprises me anymore. I don't let it, try not to. I have been surprised with, friends that drop off, or, obviously, I'm married and divorced. I mean, that at the time, it's not why you go into these relationships,
Sure.
Jobs, same way, being fired, and let go. Looking back, it's less of a surprise, but at the time it's a big surprise. And and anymore, I think, it's unfortunate for me that, like bad things or in bad surprises, they don't really surprise me anymore. Like, it's just like, yeah, sure. Like that. Yeah. That's how people are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The good surprises for me, those are the only real surprises. Someone really pulls through. Someone does something above and beyond. Someone does something really nice for you. Not just like gifts or anything like that, but just really they support you, or you see them supporting other people, right? You know what I mean? Like, someone tells me a story. It's like, yeah, I had to drywall, whatever. I was doing a home project and my neighbors came over or whatever and really helped me out, or like friends came over, Cigar Community, whatever it might be. I'm like, that's great. So it's nice. It's a surprise, but it's not like shocking. It's just like, that's awesome. Yeah. That's where I'm at in life now. The bad surprises, it's just kind of like
outweigh the
good. Well, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's just another. The hits just keep coming. You know what I mean? It's
you become numb to it.
That's accurate, but it's also a bad way to look at it. It's almost like, again, I say calloused. It's kind of the same thing. It's more like, for me, it's more just like, no, it's almost like not expecting for bad things to happen. It's just I'm less surprised about when things don't go well. And it's just like, that's just the way life works, and you got to keep moving forward. You got to keep plugging away. You got to keep dealing with that stuff. But surprise is not really for me anymore. When bad things happen, it just sucks.
Yeah.
I think
things were going good for so long. Something bad was bound to happen.
I'm not expecting bad things to happen. I'm not surprised when it does happen. It's not my mentality that like, oh, something's gonna happen here. It's when something bad happens, or a bad surprise, if you will, happens.
Less shock.
Less shock. That's a great way to put it.
I think a
lot.
Yeah,
no, of course. Sure. Shit happens.
Yeah. I think a lot of I think people can relate that have kids. Their kids can surprise you. My kid O'Malley, I mean, I've always said they're kind of like an old soul. They have an outlook on life that even when I was their age or even older, like, I'm like, how the fuck did you even like process that and come out with that thing? But it's like if they see a conflict between two people, their initial reaction is to run to them and break it up and be able to find the good in both of them and let those two people see the good in each other that we're fighting. Like, that's the kind of shit they do. And it's not, but over the years, it's like the advice I hear that they give their kids. It's like you though. Now anymore, I'm not surprised because I know what kind of person they are. And but to see them grow from a little kid up until now, until they're, 15 now, it's been, my wife and I have been very blessed to be able to witness that. And then we also look forward to what else are they capable of doing as they get older.
Sure.
And it's just the sky's the limit, Yeah.
Less surprised, less shocked. It's just like this is how life works.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's keep positive about it.
Yep.
Another one here, and this word was kind of new to me. We talked about this.
You can get it.
I don't think I can.
Synchronicity.
The concept,
police.
The concept of synchronicity. When multiple things just almost magically align and come together, and conversely, when they do not. Does synchronicity exist? Does the world or a higher power point us in a certain direction, or is it people looking for meaning where it doesn't exist?
Sometimes it's hard sometimes things that happen that are so that it's like so unbelievable that it fell into a certain place, or it turned out the way it did. It's like, it's hard to say that it was a coincidence, and I think people from a religious background are going to say it's God, and that's totally cool. And I'm religious, and I kind of, I give them credit for situations like that. And, but to, over the years, there's things that's happened that it's like the adoption process, and what we went through and the hell we went through and the rough things, with the being told we're going to have a kid from Vietnam multiple times and end up, they're not real. And the heartbreak we went through, but then the child that we were matched with and how much we just gelled it's just, I can't say that as a coincidence. It's just there's too many factors,
I think it depends on your background too. When it comes to
background how.
Well, if you're, to Sean's point, if you're a religious person, when things are going well, that's where you're going to give the credit to.
Sure.
Is now, and I think that's also like if you are actually doing things and acting as a faithful believer in whatever it is that you believe, because it's kind of hard for some.
Here, we're flirting with it.
I know. But like, if you're not living your life in that type of lifestyle, and then all of a sudden things start going well, then it's like, well, are you is that higher power actually blessing you? Because you're not acting like a believer.
Sure.
So if you're not acting like that, why would that higher power then bless you? Because you're not doing anything to glorify them. So like, is that really it?
And it could,
so it depends on how you're living.
And it could lead, and that higher power could lead you to think that that's a good thing. And down the road, it could all come crashing down and then take it as a lesson, And then another big thing you use is karma. Karma is another way of putting it, or you put good out to the world, good things come back. So people use that as an example too.
To do, and I think there's plenty of examples, not to be that person on this, but you fucking live your life well, and all of a sudden you get diagnosed with cancer. Like, all right.
Yeah, that's hard. It's difficult.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got a good friend, and everyone's got a friend, and like, I feel like anymore, it's like, those types of things like cancer and other like very bad illnesses that come out of nowhere. It's like, is it because you lived a bad life? No, not always. I mean, you can rationalize it or justify it. You really dive into it. It's like, well, it's because I did this and I was living a bad life. This is why I was given these cards, you know what I mean? As a punishment. But it's like, I have a good friend of mine that I saw today, and it's like, he was trying to live his life the best way he could the first 20 some years of his life, and he was diagnosed with testicular cancer at like 23, 24 years old. And it's like, he didn't just like respond after he recovered from that. And, he didn't respond to just like, I'm just going to live my life just recklessly. But it's like, what am I, like, I did all, and this is what I was given. But you can look at that situation and you're like, well, no, you beat that. Now you can build off of that. I mean, this is an interesting one. Like, I think like serendipity is another word for some of this stuff. I think of that. But I think, karma is one of those things. I think on you can put out positive energy. And going back to the surprise thing, I can try to do something, or anyone can try to live their life in a positive way. And when things go well, it's like, this is karma coming back to me. But when you live your life a certain way, and then all of a sudden something bad happens to you, it's like, oh, so you're going to justify somewhere else. Like, you're going to rationalize this. I mean, it's how you talk about, like, how you were raised or background or whatever it is. It's like religious people. It's like, I was raised very religious, and we don't talk about religion much on this podcast, but it's like one of those things is I saw people for who they were just in the church I was raised in. And when they went through a split and they weren't talking and they were treating people like shit, I'm like, so I'm getting, this is around the same, going back to the Fight Club days.
Yep.
This is me coming back from college and trying to like be a part of that church. And I'm like, I was at a town hall meeting, right? And I was 20 years old, and I was back, and I was like, I stood up in front of everyone and said something along the lines. It was like, I was raised in this church since I moved to Columbus, and this is like, you're my community. This is what, and people aren't talking to each other. People are talking bad about each other. Like, what are we doing here? All because, and this was the Lutheran church, not to talk bad about the Lutheran church, but because the synod, so the breakdown of that Lutheran church, they had changed some of their stuff, and so people wanted to break off of that synod and start an independent and all this stuff, and like people were treating people like shit. And I'm like, so this is organized religion. Yep. Cool. So you're gonna rationalize whatever the fuck you want so that it makes you feel good about how you view this. But when I saw you last, you two were having fucking breakfast together in the fellowship hall after Sunday service. Now you guys won't even talk to each other and talking bad about each other.
Yep.
Like, this is the background we're talking about. That's where I'm getting a little aggressive here. It's like, go fuck yourself. Yeah. and realize that this isn't about you.
Yeah.
And that's where I look at that.
Well, yeah. And I was part of a church split too.
I know you were.
And, my stepdad was the head of that church. He's the one that started that church, and someone else came in and basically almost like staged a coup and took over and forced him out. So then what happened? Like a bunch of us that had started originally, like we're like, all right, we're just gonna go do something else. Like we're gonna go start another one, and which had its positives as well. But again, like you were talking about with your example, Steve, you had people that were working together that all of a sudden now, like, they won't pick up the phone, they won't text each other. I mean,
it's religion, it's politics, it's everything else. It's fucking an HOA, man.
There's one story I will say.
Welcome back, Melanie.
That I've said 1,000 times, and you guys know it, and I'll make it very quick for people that maybe not heard it, is I look at it as, you said the sick thing, like the brain tumor that I had.
Yeah.
All right. I was living a good life. Everything was good. I was diagnosed with that, had surgery, lost my vision peripherally, had a lot of internal things in my brain, still deal with it to this day. But the path it took me on brought me and my wife back together because we had just split up before I was diagnosed with it. Fast forward a couple of years later, we got married. Fast forward a couple of years later after that, we try having kids. We can't because my brain tumor affected my pituitary, which controls all your reproductive shit. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to 2009, and we bring Molly into our life. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a fucking silver lining. To me, that was something that I was given that I thought at the time when it was first brought to me was like, my life's over. Yeah. Fuck, I'm screwed.
Can't see the forest through the trees.
Right. And now I look back and say, and I say it to this day, and I even have a video on my YouTube page, God bless me with a brain tumor. Whether you religion or not religion, I was blessed to have that, to bring my wife back into my life and to bring Molly into our lives. Had that not happened, I don't know where we'd be right now, or if I'd be with Teresa or have Molly. And I couldn't imagine thinking my life without them.
I agree. And I think going back to this, the synchronicity, that's the point here. Mm-hmm. Karma, whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? The serendipity of things, mm-hmm. How they line up. It's like, you're absolutely right. You don't know how it would have gone a different way, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to be a downer here, but it's like I can easily look at that and be like, I'll say this on my behalf, is that I think that things happen for a reason. That I'll stand behind. Mm-hmm. Whether you believe in a religion, the God, whatever you like, however you feel, or if you just think the universe has a higher power or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You can be as confident as you want. I will say this, and this is my viewpoint: we don't know, and that's why there's so many differing opinions on higher powers and everything else. Sure, we don't know as a species. Right. We don't know as people. I think you need to live your life a certain way, however you feel comfortable with it. And you have to realize, much like this was not planned, but that the whole what surprises you, people, but everything in life, I'm not surprised anymore. You can live your life the best you can. You can have best habits. You eat well. You can take care of yourself, all that stuff. And then all of a sudden you die at fucking 35 years old. Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, yeah. You get hit by a bus, do that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Stillbirths. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even have a chance in this world. Like, you want to explain that to me with like this type of concept? I don't like it. Things happen for a reason for other people. Sure. But I think when that stuff happens, this is a tough topic to talk about because it is something that you can from a philosophy standpoint, you can debate both sides. Sure. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like a fucking, tornado hits and kills a bunch of people, or a hurricane or a tsunami, natural disaster, earthquake, and all that stuff. It's like, explain that to me. You explain, like, what's the good in that? Sure. Well, because I learned from it as someone that lived on. It's like, cool, that's great. The people that didn't make it, how do they explain it? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, were they all fuck ups? Were they like living bad lives? And that's why, like, God pinpointed them and just knocked them off? No, like, oh, but he like used that as an example for us to like, you can talk circles around this, and I'm not belittling, and I appreciate you guys nodding and agreeing. Yeah. I'm not talking down to religion. I'm not talking down to this or anyone that believes a certain way. I'm looking at it as we rationalize and deal the best we can to understand why things work out the way they do. And I love hearing stories, Nate, with your family, and you haven't talked about tonight, and when you talk about like how you and Jess met, and like you and Teresa and Molly and all this stuff, and it's like where I'm at in my life right now. I would have never met Kristen if things worked out better in certain relationships in my life. It's the attitude that you come out of it with the best you can. And when you're dealt a bad hand, Sean, you've had some health issues, it's like it could literally be, I'm gonna knock on this wood ashtray, that we have a bad diagnosis tomorrow. You wake up tomorrow, you don't feel right, and then you go to die, and like you've got this long to live. It's like, did I do something wrong? I don't believe in that. I don't believe in the punishment of that stuff. But I think that this topic is that you keep working for. If you have a good attitude, there's some shit people that just fucking win the lottery. I mean, you can explain that. Try to explain that to me, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying like the other side of it is like if we live our lives, we keep learning, we keep getting hopefully better, and you have the opportunity to get better. Now all of a sudden, I do believe that there is something that we, as a whole, and if you believe in something as a higher power, hopefully they have a little bit of focus on all of our lives, that it's you learn from it and you appreciate, to your point, Sean, that if you didn't go through all that stuff, you and Teresa may have gotten back together. You don't know that. But if you didn't, this happened for a reason and all that stuff. I believe in things happen for a reason. If you give yourself a chance to really reflect on that and get better because of it.
I like that. I totally agree.
Man.
Yeah, it could have gone 100 different ways. So
that's a tough one, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't use that as the only topic, because this would have fucking just went
well,
off
when I first read that one from Ann, the whole
yelling, the comments would have been crazy.
Fuck you.
No, when I read that one from Ann about the synchronicity of things, like I was thinking back.
Say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball. I always go back to that when we talk about Christ. Harris, let's not start a holy war here.
That's so fucking great line.
God, had to steal Joe Boo's rum.
Great movie.
Major League, that was a great movie.
Yeah, but no, like I mean,
we get serious and then just
but no, synchronicity on both sides of it. Like, I mean, go back, a year and a half ago, where I was, with work, how negative things were with work, how that had a negative impact on my mental health, my physical health, all that stuff. And then, 6 months ago, I made a change, and like, since I made that change, I'm in a happier place.
Yeah.
I have a better mental attitude. I'm healthier, because I've lost about 30 pounds.
Good for you, man. I'm proud of you.
And yes, that job and stuff has had, ups and downs. There's been some negative aspects that have come from that, but still, for the most part, like overall, things are better. Things are better at home. Getting a new car. So both sides of it, like I had a stretch of things that were just compounding on the negative side, but then made a change towards positive, and things started compounding on the positive side.
Right.
So sometimes, certain choices can have a snowball effect one way or the other, positive or negative. But it, how you handle it and how you come through that, what you learn from it, I think that's what, kind of keeps that momentum going either way.
I think as a society,
thank you, Jess.
We keep circling back, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
As individuals, I hope that we keep moving forward. It's harder as a group, I think. We had a new listener, I think, on the YouTube there. It was a Texas Taurus. He said, "Yo, live, thinking about lighting up and having a drink." We're rounding out here, part 2. So hopefully you guys tune back in and listen to us. I think I'm running out of topics here. We hit some good ones.
Yeah, we did. Thanks, Ann and Bobby Hirschman.
And Aaron. Ray, you know, who was not listening, his was friendships, the importance of, and the challenges of.
Yep.
And I think that we touched on some of that stuff.
I think what's great about these topics tonight is we get to learn more about not just the people, the audience, but us three individuals with each other, you know.
And the comments coming back from that, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
You have that pulled up there, the YouTube?
Yeah, it's right here. I just replied to him.
Someone else commented on there. Oh, that's you. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's you.
That's his YouTube one.
Tim Dodge says, you know, I believe everything happens for a reason, good or bad. Realistically, our actions, good or bad, have an impact on what we experience through life. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all saying the same thing here. I agree. I guess closing remarks. I don't know how you do closing remarks on all those.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Yeah, Sean, you first. Go ahead.
Thanks for being the guest.
Yeah.
Tonight, Sean.
Always get the lead off and the lead off hitter. Well, I will say to start out is I am buzzing like a motherfucker because this is more than I normally drink, so I'm feeling pretty.
You work in the morning, right?
At 9, but you know, I'll go to sleep.
Oh, good. Thunder.
There's some thunder.
Cool. Another storm.
Great. Hopefully it's hail the size of fucking softballs. Anyway,
softballs?
No, I'm kidding.
The car's gonna be fucking pulverized.
Yeah. Well, it won't be as bad now. I mean,
good thing I have a new roof.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I just looking back on all these, you know, all the questions that were brought up and the subjects were awesome. And kind of like I just said a few minutes ago, I love the fact that it allows us to just kind of explore different topics and allow us to voice our opinion, whether it be here or online. And each time I'm a part of this podcast, and whether I'm here or I'm in the background, I learned
studio audience.
Yes, studio audience. I learn so much more about you guys and the people on this in the community, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier about how great this community has grown and how we've, you know, just we're able to bond through some really tough times in the world. And but, you know, no matter how rough it was during the pandemic, we always had something to look forward to allow us to all to come together and be a part of a community that strengthens all of our relationships. And over the years, the amount of people that I've met through this community, it's just astounding. And the friends I've met and been able to share this with, and to be able to have these topics have been just a good eye opener. And I respect everyone's opinion and their thoughts. And I think that's what it's all about too, is a friendship. You know, somebody may not agree with you on your opinion, but at least here there's acceptance, and there's, you know, you get to see a side of people you may not normally see. And I think that's such a strong bonding opportunity. And for that, I'm grateful. And I think I look forward to the next time we have more topics to bring up to be able to discuss.
Yeah, I love this format.
Yeah, and it really just takes you out of your comfort zone sometimes, and you get to see sides of people you've seen, and whether it's good or bad, it's just you get to learn. You learn from them, and your friendship becomes stronger. So that's what I got.
I love, I mean, late in the show, but I love the new listener, especially on YouTube.
Yeah.
Texas Taurus. I don't how long you guys had this show?
5.5 years.
5.5 years, man. Happy to have you on. And then we got Austin In and Out. You know, I love this comment here. You know, in and out tonight, but love listening to you guys and the commentary. Cheers, fellas. Jonathan has to drink because he bet. Over under.
I'm always under, bitch.
I don't see. I don't know what that means. I don't know. Melanie says, stop and smell the flowers, and remember in life, drive it like you stole it, because life is definitely too short. I know I sure did, even with the good, the bad, and the ugly. I like that. Love that. And then bringing people together one more time here, and you guys can talk here. Jonathan, he's on YouTube, so I can't keep moderating this, but where is Taurus at in Texas? So hopefully you guys can link up on, or Yeah, towards Texas. If you're in Texas, join us on Facebook Live if you have Facebook. And it's also join the Bourbon and BS community page. Nate, go ahead, man. I'm going to get one more pour if I could.
Yeah.
Hate to cheers with an empty glass.
Of course.
Yeah, I gotta see.
No, so there have been times in the past where, because coming up with topics every single week can get a little daunting because the well runs dry at times.
Yeah, it does.
But we've posted this in the past about like, hey, does anyone have an idea for a part 2 conversation? And not every time do we get a whole lot of comments or suggestions. This was one that as soon as Steve posted that, immediately we started getting responses.
Yeah.
So that's a big thanks to the community that
that's why we're doing the show too, right? I mean, that's why we do this.
So thank you guys for being there week in, week out, for being good members of the page and not posting a bunch of bullshit and trying to sell shit. And my well of topics is never. Yeah, Ann's always got ideas.
Love it.
Ann always has ideas.
And we need to get you back on the show. Actually,
as my wife calls her, Ann is the personification of champagne bubbles.
Oh my God.
She's a very bubbly person. She's great to talk to, great to hang out with.
And you need a t-shirt with champagne bubbles on the front of it.
But no, I mean, big thanks to the community for stepping up today and coming up with different things to talk about. And it goes to show, reaching out to the community, there's been some lighthearted discussions tonight. There's been some deeper ones.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what's great about doing the topics that we do every single week. Some of them are more lighthearted. We've done ones like, especially, thinking back to that first year of the show, we did ones like, let's talk about movies, let's talk about music. And, we've had some of those lighthearted ones, but then we've definitely had some deep ones. We've had some that
some heated ones.
We've had some heated ones,
especially early on.
Yeah, when Jake was still here. There's been some heated discussions. But whether things have been lighthearted or heated or serious to the point where it's brought the panel to tears, because there's not one of us on this panel that can sit there and say we've not shed a tear on an episode ever.
Yeah,
we all have.
Choking up moments.
Yes, that goes to show the authenticity and genuineness of this and what we do.
Mostly on part 1, we really shed a tear, choked up. This whiskey is really hitting me. So the story behind this cigar is just so impactful, and I will live my life differently because I lit this cigar up.
Let Chat GTP do a show plan. We'll see how that goes. But no, my closing remarks is mainly a shout out to the community for being there, for tuning in, week out. But then also, being there with ideas and things to talk about. Because when we post something like, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? Obviously, when people say something, that's probably something that is weighing on their minds.
Yeah.
And, some of our listeners may be going through something and they post like, hey, why don't you guys talk about this? They may not say whether that's something that they're going through, but why do they suggest that? Because they want to hear what we have to say on that. Maybe they're looking for outward advice or thoughts or ideas, or they just want another opinion about something.
Yeah.
And, so that whole community aspect is the heart of what we do and why we do this show week in, week out. Yeah. It's not, we could sit there and, Steve and I have joked about it in the past. If we didn't have a podcast, we could still get together every single week, just hang out, drink, smoke cigars, and just bullshit. No one would ever see it. it'd be beneficial to us. But the whole point of doing the show is hopefully it's bringing something beneficial to those listening. And, that's why we tune in every week. That's why we do the StreamYards where you guys can comment live. That's why we
found this.
That's why we throw your comments and questions up there. So that way, if you have a question or something, we can talk about that. We can address that. And there's good and bad to it, but the good of it outweighs the bad by far. But no, I mean, it's great to have the community interaction, because those first couple years of the podcast before we started using the StreamYard, that wasn't there.
It wasn't.
But
it was also even more raw at that point. It was who was in the garage that night, and then the response was what led us to this.
Yeah.
Ann is tuned in.
She is on.
She's
on her A game.
She's rolling with it. You save some of those topics for the next week or next time, please, because she's like, thoughts on issue 1 in Ohio. Discuss. I'm like, nope, not right now. Not doing that.
At the end, we're all buzzing.
Yeah. So closing remarks for me. Yes, to kind of echo what you guys are saying. Love this. Love the topics we talked about. I do enjoy this, and someone asked me about this recently. If I'm still enjoying doing this podcast, and personally, yes. The fact that my Wednesday night is committed, not always. You know what I mean? That's because, again, that's one of those things going back to, meeting your heroes, not making me a hero, but it's like I have a personal life. You guys have personal lives. We do this every week, and it's entertaining. We get a lot out of it, and we have this type of community. This is a commitment that I've made. Nate, you've made, even Sean, whether you're on this side of the camera or on the other side of the camera, you get a lot out of it. We all get a lot out of this. Yep. I started with Jake. I started the podcast because he wanted to do it. And Nate, I appreciate you bringing that up earlier, that I was the driving force of, I'm not just going to do another bourbon or cigar podcast. Those are great. And there are times where I just think that it'd be so much easier to do part 1. We call it, and then we actually have part 2 with just us in here. And we light up another cigar. We pour another drink. And again, the whole shirt that I'm wearing, we figure this out together.
Sure.
There's a lot of value in that. I think that this is, I started the community page because there was something happening here, and I think that there's something that we can get out of it, and something that I can get out of it. A lot of people will say, and I had a good friend of mine was going to start a YouTube channel, but he doesn't know what to do, and he like big car guy, and he wants to do it, and I was asking him, like, why do you want to do it? And he's like, I've learned so much, and I look up to this guy, friend for 20 plus years, and he's like, I want to, like, in a sense, document for me what I've learned. If other people want to watch, great. If they don't, that's fine too. And I said, dude, I've been doing this podcast thing for 5 years, and I'm not Joe Rogan. We don't have millions of followers. We're not making income that we quit our jobs off of this. That'd be cool. We need more staff. We need, but it's one of those things where it's like we keep doing this because I get something out of this, and I look at this. You guys keep commenting about the community and how great this is and all that stuff. Is that all it takes for you to have these conversations is to be involved, and that was the commitment that Jake and I made initially. Nate, you jumped in early from behind the scenes. And then when there was a hole that needed to be filled, you've been a part of this. And the reason that I keep doing this and the reason that I started the community page was just simply because I learned that everything you do doesn't have to be necessarily for money or for that type of fulfillment. But everyone always says all you got to do is, you don't have to be great to get started. You have to get started to be great. And I look at this as that we have done something as a community, as small as it may be right now, and 5 years from now it might be the same size, but you guys make this worthwhile for me to keep doing it, because there have been a lot of times where I'm like, I don't want to do it this week because we don't have a bottle, we don't have a topic, we don't have this. It's like, why do we have to keep doing it? It's like, because we get something out of it. I get something out of it.
We do, they do.
Yep.
I say we as a community, and anyone listening, and then you get one new listener. You have that new YouTube listener that just tuned in, however he found us, and he's commenting at the end, "Are you guys live?" He's new to the show, and like maybe they keep tuning in.
Yep.
Maybe they meet up with Jonathan down in Texas. Maybe they're a cigar smoker. Maybe they're bourbon. You don't know. And then like this part 2 is just something that I think is so valuable, and I appreciate Jonathan, Austin, and Sean, Ray. I'm trying to remember. Justin was out there. All you guys that we see every week, and all the new people that listen every week. I truly do appreciate you guys listening, being a part of the conversation, and I value these nights together, and I hope to continue doing those things where we keep learning from each other.
Just so you know, we all appreciate you too, brother, because you give us this platform every week to be able to come together as a community and do this. And I know there's weeks you don't want it. It's tough for you to like get the energy to do it, or you find the right topic or whatever. You and Nate both. And to me, that's a very selfless act for you guys to do. And it means a lot to many people, more than you know. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. We'll see you next week. We got Kunal from Aganorsa Leaf Cigars. Sweet. He's going to be in the garage, and we're looking forward to that. And we're going to smoke some great cigars. I don't know what bottle we're going to drink, but we're going to do some great Aganorsa Leaf cigars, and I'm looking forward to that. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
See you guys out there.